Chapter 1. The story commences with an elder named Liu Jinshan visiting a medical clinic because his headache has worsened. His doctor discovered that his tumor had grown, and he was on the verge of descending into insanity due to the excruciating pain that would ultimately claim his life. He expressed gratitude to his doctor and extended an invitation for them to share a meal while he was still alive. Jinshan contemplated sorting things out. He had no regrets, but it was unfortunate that he wouldn't be around to witness his youngest granddaughter, Seol, grow up. Seol was a unique child born with an unbreakable and sound physical constitution, a gifted youngster who would undoubtedly bring honor to her family when she grew up. Upon returning to his home, he detected a faint scent of blood seeping from beneath the door. Alarmed, he rushed inside to investigate, only to be met with a horrifying sight. A multitude of lifeless bodies strewn across the floor, most of them belonging to his family members and his daughter-in-law. Overwhelmed by despair, Jinshan grabbed a knife and contemplated driving it into his own neck. In the midst of his grief, he suddenly heard someone crying from within a hiding place. To his astonishment, it was his granddaughter, Seol, who had survived. Liu Jinshan couldn't shake the belief that this heinous act was the work of individuals determined to eradicate their family, and he was certain they would return if they discovered that Seol was still alive. Jinshan implored the people of Jinyang County for assistance in burying his family. Although he yearned to carry out the solemn task with his own hands, time was of the essence, and he had to depart swiftly. He made a solemn promise to all who offered their help that he would never rest until he avenged his family by staining their cherished heirloom, the Fire Dragon Divine Spear, with the blood of those who had murdered his loved ones. It had been several decades since Jinshan had last employed his body-lightening arts, and every inch of his ailing body was now protesting. Nevertheless, survival remained his primary concern. As he pressed on, a nimble ninja attempted to ambush him. Despite his efforts to evade, the ninja persisted in pursuing the elderly man and the newborn baby. Given his fragile condition, continuous evasion was disadvantageous for Jinshan, leaving him with but one option. He needed to incapacitate his pursuer in a single decisive blow, or else he would be the one to suffer. As the ninja persisted in closing the distance, Jinshan swiftly retrieved the spear. In an attempt to evade the spear thrust, the ninja leapt into the air, but Jinshan had been gathering air in his mouth and unleashed a powerful lion's roar attack. The force of the roar left his adversary immobilized, and Jinshan wasted no time in employing the Liu family's spear technique. The ninja was hurled into a nearby tree, and Jinshan administered a reprimanding slap for his impertinence. Inadvertently, during the encounter, Jinshan managed to dislodge the ninja's mask, revealing an unusual dragon tattoo underneath. It was the sole piece of information he could glean from this enigmatic adversary. As night descended, Jinshan was elated to see his granddaughter, Seol, content after consuming boiled cow's milk. However, his joy was abruptly shattered by an excruciating headache, unlike anything he had ever felt before. The doctor's earlier warning echoed in his mind, reminding him that he would ultimately lose his sanity due to unbearable pain, with no chance of recovery. Recalling the doctor's counsel, Jinshan knew he had been given a solution, a poison known as the nerve suppression pill. This poison was capable of temporarily suppressing his tumor and extending his life. It was a drug often employed to torture prisoners, inflicting intense pain without causing death. Nevertheless, he understood that without suppressing the tumor with this poison, he would not survive. He couldn't bear the thought of leaving his beloved granddaughter alone, so he made the agonizing decision to take the pill. The moment the poison coursed through his body, he was consumed by a torment so intense that he couldn't help but cry out in agony. Time had passed, and fortunately, the effects of the poison qi had subsided, allowing Jinshan to continue living for the time being. However, the uncertainty of when his debilitating headaches would return loomed over him. He understood that he had to endure, at least until he could ensure Seol's safety. There was only one path forward, through body reconstruction. This procedure involved reshaping the bones and flesh within one's body to create a physique best suited for mastering martial arts, a transformation necessary to both cure his tumor and protect Seol from potential dangers. Chapter 2. In recent days, Liu Jinshan had been surviving on meager sustenance, foraging for whatever edible grass roots he could find. Fortunately, fate smiled upon him, leading him to a village. As he walked through the village, a mouth-watering aroma wafted through the air, the enticing scent of a rich soup with a whole chicken. A group of beggars were gathered around a makeshift cooking pot, preparing this enticing meal. Jinshan couldn't resist the temptation and approached them, humbly requesting a bowl of food. The beggars, seemingly charitable, invited him to join them and offered him a seat. However, one of the beggars quickly feigned forgetfulness, claiming to have left out the salt, and asked Jinshan to wait for a moment. Little did Jinshan know, this beggar had recognized him as Liu Jinshan from the Liu family, primarily due to his distinctive outfit and the baby on his back. With this revelation, they began plotting to capture the old man. When the beggar returned, he claimed that he had already added salt to the meal. However, Jinshan and Seol had already finished their food. Jinshan expressed his satisfaction with the meal, but he couldn't shake the feeling that he might have stumbled upon individuals connected to those who had caused the tragic loss of his children. In response, the beggars initiated an attack, wielding bamboo sticks against Jinshan. Undaunted, Jinshan, armed only with a piece of a spoon, swiftly incapacitated his assailants, breaking their arms and delivering a series of precise blows to subdue them. Once the threat was neutralized, Jinshan inquired about the identity of the mastermind behind the attack on his family. The beggars presented Jinshan with a wanted poster, and to his shock, it depicted Liu Jinshan, the patriarch of the recently devastated Liu family, as a madman who had succumbed to a state of qi deviation. The order for his capture had been issued by the Murim alliance. The truth about the unjust destruction of the Liu family could be easily corroborated by speaking to the residents of Jinyang County. However, the issuance of a false wanted order raised suspicions that the Murim alliance might have some connection to his family's tragic ordeal, or that someone with significant influence within the Murim alliance was orchestrating these events from behind the scenes. Nonetheless, a perplexing question continued to gnaw at Jinshan's thoughts. Why would the orthodox sect's Murim alliance, known for upholding righteousness, engage in such sinister actions? As he pondered this, a hungry soul cried out for attention and threw the milk he had given her. In response, he playfully inquired if she would like a rabbit skewer, challenging her to say, "Grandpa," if she desired the treat. To his astonishment, Seol managed to utter, "Grappa." Jinshan couldn't believe that she could already speak, growing at an astonishing rate due to her extraordinary immortal sound and body constitution. As he couldn't provide her with meat at the moment, he resolved to find ingredients for her porridge. Jinshan spotted a woman passing by and approached her, pleading for some food to feed his child. The lady surprisingly offered to provide her own breast milk to nourish the baby. She requested that Jinshan turn away for a moment. While he turned his back, Jinshan attempted to communicate with the lady about their situation and inquired about the baby's well-being, but she remained silent. When he eventually turned back around, he was horrified to discover that the woman was attempting to escape with Seol. Swiftly, he intercepted her and knocked her unconscious. As he contemplated the lady's inexplicable actions, his eyes fell upon a wanted poster posted on a nearby wall. The poster falsely depicted him as a madman, claiming that Liu Jinshan had kidnapped a baby girl and was carrying her with him. It offered a substantial reward to anyone who rescued and delivered the child to the Murim alliance. Not long ago, Jinshan had heard news about the great Byuk family in the nearby village meeting a similar fate. They were attacked and completely wiped out overnight, their members found dead, with the peculiar absence of infant corpses. Witnesses claimed to have seen the culprits taking the babies away. Jinshan couldn't dismiss the connection between these events and the attack on the Liu family. It seemed unlikely that just anyone could annihilate a family as significant as the great Byuk family in a single night. In the past, the rumor about Seol's immortal sound and body constitution had circulated widely. The Murim alliance had even sent them elixirs to bolster Seol's qi as a gift, celebrating her remarkable similarity to the Sword Empress, the greatest historical martial expert. The Murim alliance was well aware of Seol's existence, but it had become clear that their true intentions were to ruthlessly eliminate Jinshan and his family, seizing Seol. The beggars Jinshan had confronted had led to the involvement of the area's top assassin, who believed it was his lucky break, a chance to make a name for himself with ease. Yet, to their astonishment, the old man suddenly vanished before their eyes. Chapter 3. Jinshan believes that even if he were to become a madman, he would still eliminate all of them. However, before he can launch an attack, Seol called out his grappa. As a result, the beggars and the assassin checked their surroundings, affirming that they had indeed heard something. Jinshan struggled to control his anger, almost falling into a state of qi deviation. Had he seen blood at that moment, he might have succumbed to madness, just as the individuals from the Murim alliance desired. He promised Seol that he wouldn't allow that to happen again. After discovering that the entire world was hunting them, he needed to locate a secure hiding place where they could remain concealed. 2 months had elapsed since that moment. They had finally stumbled upon a location that resembled a palace in appearance. While conducting a thorough inspection of the area, he came across an exquisitely adorned jade box. Upon opening the box, he found a set of flying needles, suggesting that a skilled inner chi expert must have previously inhabited the place. He surmised that the former occupant of the residence was anything but ordinary. Jinshan prepared a meal for his beloved granddaughter and, as he fed her, he recalled the way his youngest son used to eat when he was a child. Seol noticed him shedding tears and asked, "Grappa, cry?" He felt embarrassed to reveal his vulnerable side in front of his granddaughter. Ever since he had discovered the conspiracy orchestrated by the individuals from the Murim alliance, all he had desired was to eliminate them. However, he now understood that revenge could wait. At this moment, the most crucial priority was ensuring Seol's well-being and nurturing her to be healthy. In the morning, Jinshan began planting a variety of vegetables for his granddaughter. He was pleasantly surprised to find her standing and encouraged her to take her first steps towards him. He marveled at the fact that she had already started walking and talking, so he invited her to play with her grandpa around the house. As night fell, Seol must have been exhausted from her first steps, as she easily drifted off to sleep. Jinshan decided to go hunting for a while. While he was out, he was taken aback to encounter people in such a remote area of the mountains. Their comrade asked them why they were so late and inquired about their missing companions. The bandits explained that their opponents had received unexpected support from the Wudang sect, with 2 Taoists guarding them. This meant that their comrades had been slain by these individuals. They managed to eliminate one of the Taoists, who happened to be a second-generation disciple of the Wudang sect, but the other one had escaped when their reinforcement squad arrived. Their comrade chastised them, stating that they should have killed both of the Taoists and eradicated all evidence. Since the situation involved the Wudang sect, a punitive force was likely to be assembled, and a fierce conflict was imminent. Jinshan realized that this mountain was both his and Seol's home, and he needed to establish a clear boundary before they got entangled in the impending chaos. Stepping forward, he confronted the bandits and ordered them to return and inform their leader that an elderly man had recently taken up residence down the mountain. He sternly warned them not to set foot near the area unless they wished to witness a violent confrontation. However, the bandits mistakenly believed that the old man was merely jesting and initiated an attack on him. Jinshan realized that to ensure the bandits would never return to this place, he needed to demonstrate the stark difference between their abilities. As the bandits rushed toward him, they suddenly halted when a powerful gust of wind sliced through numerous trees behind them. Though Jinshan had initially wanted to teach them a lesson in manners, he decided to let them off this time since it was their first encounter. However, their vice leader arrived on the scene and inquired if a landslide had just occurred. The imposing figure questioned his comrades if they had been quarreling with the old man, asserting that the solution was to split the old man's head open. In their attempt to surprise Jinshan with an attack, they failed to land a blow and found themselves countered instead. They were astounded to witness their vice leader being defeated by an elderly man. Jinshan warned them not to return, but an unfortunate event unfolded. His debilitating headache resurfaced, prompting him to reach for a nerve suppression pill to prevent a collapse. While they observed his suffering, the bandits seized the opportunity to assault him, relentlessly beating him until he lost consciousness. The bandits then transported Jinshan to their leader, who abruptly slapped him across the face and questioned how he could allow an old man to be tied up in such a manner. As Jinshan regained consciousness, he wondered how much time had passed and fretted about Seol being alone. The bandit leader noticed that Jinshan had come to his senses and acknowledged the rudeness of their younger members toward him, an elder. Jinshan pondered the reason behind the leader sparing his life. Chapter 4. The bandit leader extended an apology to Jinshan for the disrespectful behavior of his men towards an elder like him. Jinshan had a vague sense of the leader's intentions but was focused solely on the urgency of reuniting with Seol. He thought about the need to return to her immediately. The bandit leader remarked that had he known his elderly neighbor was feeling bored, he would have come to greet him earlier, expressing his regret. In response, Jinshan insisted that if the leader was genuinely sorry, he should release him first. The bandit leader promptly instructed his men to hurry and fetch the keys. Once Jinshan was released from the chains, he swiftly launched a surprise kick at the bandit leader. The leader keenly felt the immense power behind the attack, confirming his suspicion that this elderly man possessed an extraordinary level of internal chi. The bald man attempted to strike Jinshan with an axe, but Jinshan cleverly used the axe to break the chain from his wrists and forcefully pushed the bald man to the ground. Jinshan made a daring escape by leaping out of the building, only to be caught off guard by the presence of more bandits outside than he had anticipated. As the bandits prepared to launch an attack, their leader intervened, instructing them not to shoot and to let the old man go. With thoughts of his granddaughter at the forefront of his mind, Jinshan rushed back home. The bandit leader was left in awe of what he had witnessed. As expected, Jinshan's true martial prowess had not gone unnoticed. The bald man questioned their leader about why he had let Jinshan go, and the leader explained that he was trying to rectify the mess they had created. He emphasized that the fate of the Black Mountain Blade rested on the actions of the old man. Jinshan finally arrived back home and began searching for Seol immediately. After a short time, Seol spotted her grandpa and rushed into his arms, and they embraced each other warmly. To his surprise, a group of bandits approached. In an unexpected turn of events, the bandits offered their sincere apologies to Jinshan for their grave transgressions. The bandit leader then appeared and presented Jinshan with his spear, signifying a resolution to the encounter. The bandit leader expressed his desire for the neighbors living in these rugged mountains to help one another, as they would likely face numerous inconveniences. However, Jinshan saw through what he considered petty tricks and reminded them that, having crossed paths with the Wudang sect, their destiny as the Black Mountain Blade was as fragile as a candle in the wind. He warned them that if they attempted any deceitful maneuvers, they should retreat immediately. The bandit leader acknowledged Jinshan's concerns and asked for forgiveness for their earlier rudeness. As a gesture of apology, they left behind some meat and other provisions before departing. Jinshan reflected that perhaps the bandits weren't entirely rude after all. Jinshan and Seol enjoyed a satisfying meal, and it had been a while since Jinshan had felt so full. However, he understood that it wasn't the time for leisure. He never knew when he might experience a collapse or encounter trouble, so he committed to practicing qi breathing control whenever he found the time. He was determined to achieve complete body reconstruction as swiftly as possible. Jinshan once again observed Seol imitating him, and as he assisted her, he noticed that there was no turbid energy in her blood vessels. Her energy pathways were remarkably wide open, indicating that the speed at which her internal arts accumulated was dozens of times faster. With no blockages in her energy flow, she would experience no hindrances when practicing martial arts. Her condition could only be described as having an immortal sound and body. Jinshan was astounded by Seol's incredible power of absorption. She was accumulating internal energy close to 20 times the amount that could typically be gathered through a single heavenly cycle. Jinshan struggled with his energy-deprived body and glanced at the jar the mountain bandits had given him. He decided to cook the snake they provided and was delighted to taste alcohol after a long time. While gazing at the moon, he observed something emerging from it. He pondered if it was a result of the alcohol's effects and felt compelled to investigate more closely. Following this inexplicable urge, he encountered something that seemed like a creature from a legend he had heard from adults a long time ago. This creature had hazy blue fur, and it was said to be a man-eating wolf with blue eyes that had devoured more than 1,000 people over the past 1,200 years. The blue wolf. Jinshan realized that if he were trapped in the mountains with this beast, he would face a difficult choice. He would have to decide whether to abandon everything and flee with Seol immediately or to confront and kill the creature at all costs. Chapter 5. The beast launched an attack on Jinshan, prompting him to respond with the Liu family's Heaven-Earth Palm, first style, fierce dragon grappling strike to subdue the creature. However, he quickly realized that the beast's head was as tough as iron, making it a formidable opponent to face barehanded. To Jinshan's surprise, the beast didn't resume its attack but leapt over him and headed toward his house. He speculated that it might have picked up his granddaughter's scent. As the beast ran toward his home, he pursued it and slid underneath the creature, delivering a powerful kick to its stomach. The force of Jinshan's kick sent the beast flying into the air, causing it to crash onto the ground. Jinshan swiftly dashed into the house to retrieve his spear. As he and the beast locked eyes, the creature unexpectedly turned its back to him. Jinshan couldn't comprehend this change in behavior, questioning if the blue wolf was obediently retreating. He found it hard to believe, given that the blue wolf was notorious for never giving up on its chosen prey. Suspicion crept in as he considered the possibility that the beast might be lurking nearby, biding its time and waiting for the right moment to strike, putting both Seol's and his life in danger. Realizing the grave danger of their current situation, Jinshan felt it was too risky to remain in their current location. They had just begun to cultivate the land and establish a home. He contemplated their options for a new place to go after abandoning their present residence. Then, the thought of the Black Mountain Blade bandits crossed his mind, and he considered that they, too, might be in jeopardy. Jinshan decided that at the very least, he should warn them before leaving, as it seemed like the right thing to do. Upon Jinshan's arrival, the bandit leader, who introduced himself as Peng Ho, expressed his expectation that Jinshan would visit at least once. Jinshan explained that he had come to provide a warning but feared that he might have arrived too late. As Jinshan concluded his business and prepared to bid farewell, Peng Ho addressed him as Elder Liu Jinshan and acknowledged that he had seen the wanted flyer as well. Peng Ho was aware that Jinshan was the family elder, the last surviving member of the Liu family. He mentioned that they were also informed about the ongoing circumstances in the world and that the Murim alliance was likely searching for Jinshan. Intrigued, Jinshan asked Peng Ho why they hadn't reported him, given the tempting bounty on his head. Peng Ho responded by saying that they had no intention of betraying an innocent elder and his young granddaughter just to appease those individuals. Jinshan was deeply touched by this revelation, leading him to reconsider the nature of the Black Mountain Blade bandit group, concluding that they weren't as vicious as he had initially assumed. The bandits humbly requested Jinshan's assistance, specifying that they didn't require his help against the Wudang sect, but rather in dealing with the Blue Wolf. Jinshan considered the proposition, realizing that with these individuals, they might have a chance to capture the Blue Wolf and preserve the home he had worked so hard to build. Jinshan inquired about the direction from which the beast had come, and the bandits confirmed its origin. They mentioned their plans to repair that route soon, but Jinshan advised them to leave it as it was. He instructed them to mobilize all available manpower to prepare water, tree branches, and straw bales. Peng Ho assured Jinshan that they would follow his directives. Jinshan then made a peculiar request, stating that he needed someone for an extremely vital role, someone who was plump and meaty enough to yield juicy results with just one bite. He gazed at the big bald guy, and they immediately set their plan in motion, calling everyone to gather around. As night fell, the big bald guy spotted the signs of the Blue Wolf approaching from the forest. The Blue Wolf launched an attack, leaping over the big bald guy, but he managed to evade the assault. The Blue Wolf landed directly in the trap they had set, falling into a deep hole they had dug as per Jinshan's instructions. Peng Ho inquired if they should place spears beneath the trap, but Jinshan advised against it, explaining that ordinary weapons wouldn't be effective. They summoned archers to fire arrows at the Blue Wolf, with the hope of creating a water body to temporarily immobilize the creature's feet. Following the archers, the bandits armed with spears arrived, intending to extract as much blood from the beast as possible. However, this still wouldn't be enough to kill the Blue Wolf. As the beast attempted to climb out of the pit, they had expended all their spears and arrows. Jinshan instructed everyone to step aside, declaring that he would be the one to end the creature's life. Chapter 6. After Jinshan landed his attack on the Blue Wolf, Peng Ho instructed his subordinates to close the hole securely, ensuring full coverage. Though the injuries sustained by the Blue Wolf were not fatal, its entire body was affected. Moreover, having fallen into the narrow pit, he could, at best, only struggle with his front paws. While waiting outside, Peng Ho and his subordinates wondered whether the encounter had concluded. Therefore, they attempted to open and remove the covers from the hole. Unable to see anything, they could only discern the scent of blood. Searching for Jinshan, they found him motionless with closed eyes. Observing the situation, the concerned Peng Ho exclaimed, "Elder." However, Jinshan suddenly spoke, inquiring if they were finished observing. He urgently requested them to pull him out, as he was on the brink of exhaustion and believed he was dying. The bandits rejoiced at the elder's success in slaying the Blue Wolf, expressing their happiness and declaring the old man as the best. Observing their celebration, Jinshan realized that he hadn't felt this way in a long time. It brought back memories of his youth when he first entered Zhonghu. Back at their house, Jinshan was relieved that they could continue residing there. As he anticipated, and perhaps having overexerted himself, his muscle pain persisted even after a bath. Examining the radiant Blue Wolf's inner core obtained from the kill, he acknowledged the potential for acquiring substantial inner qi by consuming it. However, he also weighed the risks, understanding that as a side effect, he could succumb to a state of qi deviation or instant death. Recognizing the gravity of such a gamble with his life, he decided to exercise caution and reserve the inner core for a time when its use was truly essential. Moments later, Seol awoke and called for her grandpa. She fixed her gaze on the blue crystal, desiring to seize it from her grandpa. In response, Jinshan moved it out of her reach, emphasizing that it wasn't something she could consume. However, he suddenly experienced a headache and realized he needed to quickly take the nerve suppression pill. Shortly thereafter, Jinshan collapsed to the ground, gradually losing consciousness. The blue crystal slipped from his grasp, and Seol looked at it intently. Upon regaining consciousness, Jinshan wondered how long he had been unconscious. Upon seeing Seol, he panicked and began searching for the inner core. He questioned Seol about it, and when Seol turned her head, she uttered, "Delisus." This prompted Jinshan to shout, "No!" as he hurried towards Seol, piercing various parts of her body with his fingers. The worried Jinshan wondered how this could be happening. He considered that Seol's dantian should have exploded, taking her life by now. He questioned if Seol's immortal sound body constitution neutralized the inner core's toxicity. However, he also pondered the risk that if she didn't absorb it completely, she could still face peril. While continuing to check on Seol, Jinshan witnessed a surprising development. The conception vessel, the impregnable fortress vessel, had become unclogged. The toxicity of the inner core had vanished, uniting with Seol's constitution and radiating true qi. Even her governing vessel had become unclogged, and her middle dantian had opened. Analyzing everything, Jinshan realized that this was a process of body reconstruction. Seol, like a newborn child, was undergoing a transformative rebirth. A brilliant light emanated and spread throughout the area. Jinshan was astonished that his granddaughter, Seol, had successfully absorbed all the true qi into her middle dantian. It became evident that Seol was different from before. When Jinshan inquired if she was alright, Seol, before he could reach her, suddenly started to run at an incredible speed. Jinshan couldn't believe how a child who had barely been able to walk moments ago was now running around with such agility. Even he, who had devoted his entire life to training his inner qi, couldn't achieve body reconstruction. Who would have thought Seol would be the first to accomplish it? Early in the morning, Jinshan noticed a bag outside their house, a gesture of kindness from the punks of the Black Mountain Blade who, despite their own scarcity, brought them meat again. Grateful for the unexpected provision, he decided to savor the food. While waiting for the meal to be prepared, Seol continued running back and forth, her excitement evident over the past few days. With Seol gaining physical strength comparable to that of the indestructible Buddha in an instant, Jinshan no longer had to worry about her encountering wild animals. While rotating the meat, he recalled that it might be time for Wudang sect's punitive force to arrive. A few days ago, Peng Ho had confided in him that they were once in the military about 10 years ago but deserted due to their refusal to participate in the rebellion led by their superior, General Yang Yu. Jinshan assured Peng Ho that they weren't at fault, as their decisions were based on their beliefs. Peng Ho also revealed that, even after going into hiding in the mountains, they had never harmed civilians. Instead, they only targeted the property of corrupt officials in collusion with them. Even after hearing those revelations from Peng Ho, Jinshan still questioned himself about helping them when he had his own problems to worry about. Until he achieved body reconstruction, he had to live while holding his breath. Moments later, Seol jumped onto her grandpa and suddenly fell asleep. Jinshan reflected that even if Seol had undergone body reconstruction, she was still a child. While it might be normal for him to consider giving up on achieving body reconstruction at his age, for the sake of protecting Seol, he resolved never to give up. While lying on the ground with Seol, Jinshan heard a scream, wondering if they had arrived. It could be one of the 9 great sects or one of the great clans, possibly Wudang sect. Though the mention of their name filled him with anger, as they were a formidable force within the Muram alliance, suspected of being the main culprit behind his family's destruction. Even if he were fortunate enough to assist in repelling the punitive force, he knew they would keep sending stronger experts, leading him to believe that his interference would yield no good. Despite feeling sorry for the kids from the Black Mountain Blade, meanwhile, one of the bandits faced confrontation and was asked whether he would disclose the location of their base or face a painful death. Unyielding, the bandit knew they would eliminate him regardless, so he requested a clean death. The 2 individuals from Wudang sect grew angry, with one threatening to cut off the bandit's tongue and the other expressing the desire to amputate an arm first. Before they could act, a spear blocked the sword, and Jinshan intervened. The 2 individuals demanded to know his identity, and Jinshan nonchalantly replied that he was a grandpa and the neighbor of these punks. Chapter 7. They instructed the old man, Jinshan, to stay out of it if he didn't know anything. In response, Jinshan acknowledged that whatever happened to these guys had nothing to do with him. However, he questioned whether there weren't times when neighbors were supposed to help one another. Reflecting on the past, he realized that if only someone had come forward to help his family evacuate when they were massacred. Moreover, he suspected that these individuals who were members of the Wudang sect, one of the key factions within the Murim alliance, suspected to be behind that incident. Jinshan informed the two individuals that they were the ones unaware of everything, and he asked them if they could even begin to guess what he had been through and how much he was trying to hold in at that moment. The two individuals from the Wudang sect recognized the old man in front of them as the patriarch of the Liu family, the person wanted by the Murim alliance, judging from the distinctive spear in the child on his back. Viewing this as a great opportunity to make a name for themselves, they believed that dealing with an old man who had been retired for a long time would be a piece of cake. They also made a mental note to ensure the child didn't get hurt, as the Murim alliance had instructed them to bring her back unharmed. Jinshan issued a warning, stating that as they were still young and had a long life ahead, he would give them a chance to turn back. Despite the cautionary words, one of them impulsively rushed forward and attacked Jinshan upon seeing how he had casually put down the spear. The attacker smiled, thinking Jinshan was vulnerable. To everyone's surprise, Jinshan swiftly inserted his fingers into the attacker's mouth and twisted his head like an electric fan. The senior brother of the attacker was left in shock at the unexpected turn of events. Jinshan reminded them that they had their chance to withdraw and suddenly thrust his spear, eliminating both enemies. With this, the Wudang sect, the Black Mountain Blade, and Jinshan crossed a path from which they couldn't return. The foolish and vicious cycle of revenge, perpetuating more and more vengeance, seemed unstoppable. Jinshan declared that he would never cease until he finished avenging his family. After the incident, Jinshan and Sanggu returned to the bandits' base, bringing the corpses of the Taoists with them. The bandits welcomed them with excitement, anticipating that Jinshan had come to aid them. The bandits believed that their enemies wouldn't stand a chance against Elder Jinshan, even if they came in groups. However, Jinshan urged them to stop making a fuss and reminded them that he hadn't committed to helping them yet. Having encountered numerous true masters from the Wudang sect during his travels in Jianghu, Jinshan understood well that if those experienced masters had taken action, an inevitable disaster would have befallen the bandits. Instead of facing rookies like the ones involved this time, the consequences could have been severe. Peng Ho expressed gratitude to Jinshan for coming and providing assistance. Jinshan inquired if Peng Ho had gathered information about the enemy forces. Peng Ho responded that, with 2 of them dead, there were still 8 adversaries remaining. Among them, 3 appeared to be first-generation disciples. Jinshan explained that first-generation disciples would be first-rate masters who had already mastered sword chi. He further noted that the only person capable of standing against them would be someone like Peng Ho, who had learned martial arts. Jinshan then inquired about Peng Ho's strategy. However, there wasn't much of a plan. Peng Ho explained that their best option was to use the barricade as a shield and hold out for as long as they could. Jinshan responded by stating that, no matter how thick and high their barricade was, it would be useless against the Wudang sect's first-generation disciples who knew how to handle sword chi. He also pointed out that, with their current numbers, they wouldn't be able to effectively use arrows against them either. Jinshan suggested a strategy similar to when they killed the Blue Wolf. Lure the adversaries in, surround them, and eliminate them. Knowing that Peng Ho and the others were once government troops, Jinshan expected they must have received sufficient training for ambushes. While Peng Ho expressed concern about the first-generation disciples possibly sensing their energy, Jinshan dismissed it, noting that's precisely why he brought the 2 adversaries into their base. He explained that all they needed to do was eliminate a few of them before they can execute the Wudang sect's sword array. Inside the forest, a couple of people from the Wudang sect were approaching the bandits' base. Just as they neared the base, they stopped and wondered why it was so quiet. Speculating that the bandits may have already fled, one of the Taoists expressed skepticism, stating that the bandits wouldn't dare to face them. They considered the possibility that their 2 comrades who had scouted the bandits might be pursuing them. However, Qing Jin, the leader of the Wudang sect's first-generation disciples and the punitive force, instructed them to lower their voices. He sensed that the bandits were lying in ambush behind their barricade. Second-generation disciple, Yun He, estimated that there were more than 100 bandits and expressed her concern. Qing Ho, a first-generation disciple, questioned what she was worried about. stating that being able to wipe them out in one go was actually better for them. First-generation disciple, Qing Wu, informed Yun He that she was reputed to be the most talented among the second-generation disciples and instructed her to go out first so they could assess her skills. As Yun He prepared to follow her senior brothers, she noticed something while looking at the entrance. They saw 3 people, including the junior brothers, Yun Ho and Yun Seong. Jinshan, standing beside them with a sword, warned that if they didn't want to end up like the 2 beside him, they should leave immediately. Qing Ho was shocked as he witnessed the elimination of Yun Seong, and Yun He questioned if both were already dead. Looking in that direction, Qing Ho suspected that their comrades had been poisoned and tied up, rendering them unable to use their strength. Annoyed by the noise, Jinshan declared he would cut the guy's head off too. The infuriated Qing Ho suddenly jumped forward to save his companion, but Jinshan altered the trajectory of his sword, cutting only the hair of the person to set the direction of his sword toward Qing Ho's neck. Qing Ho quickly blocked it, unable to believe how the trajectory of Jinshan's sword had changed in an instant. Jinshan was amazed that Qing Ho was able to block the move, acknowledging him as expected of a first-generation disciple. Qing Ho, surprised that the old bandit could make such a move, viewed Jinshan as cocky and attacked again, aiming to kill him with one blow. However, Jinshan suddenly utilized his inner chi to repel Qing Ho. Now that they had witnessed Jinshan's inner chi, he anticipated that the strongest among the enemies would make their move, so Jinshan didn't want to waste any more time. Armed with an incredible spear, he planned to eliminate Qing Ho with it. Sensing the extraordinary chi, Qing Ho decided to use all of his strength to block the attack and aimed for an opening. Unexpectedly, he was unable to block the Liu family's spear technique, third movement, flying execution spear. Jinshan's attack created a hole in Qing Ho's chest. After witnessing the attack, the strongest expert among the enemies moved to engage Jinshan. Jinshan could sense a gentle yet potent fighting spirit, indicative of Wudang sect's first-class martial arts. Despite Qing Jin's inner chi not matching Jinshan's, Qing Jin's strength was truly incredible, causing Jinshan to be blown away. With this, Qing Jin urged the hostage to quickly come to his senses and run away. Surprisingly, Qing Jin realized that the hostage he believed to be Yun Ho was a fake, and it turned out to be an ambush set up by Jinshan and Peng Ho. Jinshan seized the opportunity to address the other Taoists who had been watching, questioning if they had also come to massacre others like bugs in the name of revenge. He advised them to carefully contemplate their actions on their way to the afterlife, emphasizing that when they attempt to take someone's life, they must be prepared to put their own lives on the line as well. Chapter 8. Qing Wu couldn't believe that 2 of Wudang sect's first-generation disciples were killed by mere bandits. He felt insulted that the bandits dared to use dirty tricks and vowed never to forgive them. Enraged, the remaining Wudang sect's disciples attacked together, prompting Jinshan and Peng Ho to decide to retreat. As they leapt and landed on the ground, some of the Taoists inadvertently stepped into a trap hole set by the bandits to catch a mystical beast. Qing Wu commanded the other disciples to prepare for the supreme ultimate 7 stars formation. However, one of the Taoists pointed out that there were only 4 of them now, and unexpectedly, he was shot by an arrow from behind. A barrage of arrows rained down upon them, prompting Qing Wu to advise his remaining comrade to hide behind his sword chi. Unexpectedly, Jinshan stabbed Qing Wu from the back with a spear, and a horde of bandits suddenly rushed to attack the remaining Taoist. One of the Taoists managed to run and warned the bandits that he would make them pay for today, but Jinshan didn't let him escape and finished him off. Qing Wu then inquired about the fate of the 2 Taoists who fell into the pit. The bald bandit explained that one of them died from their hail of arrows, and the other was wounded. The bald guy asked Peng Ho what they should do next, and Peng Ho suggested sending her to heaven. However, while preparing to release an arrow, Jinshan told Songgu to stop and declared that they would let her live for now. Only then could the Black Mountain Blade have a future. During a break, the bald guy proposed to Peng Ho that since there was no place for them to go, they should stay and fight to the death. However, Jinshan cautioned against arrogance just because they won once. He stated that compared to the elite masters of the Wudang sect, the adversaries they just faced were nothing more than a bunch of idiots. Peng Ho then asked Jinshan what they should do next. Jinshan heard about a sparring tournament held a few years ago at Mount Hua, where a disciple of the Wudang sect accidentally killed a disciple of Mount Hua. Since then, their relationship had soured. Given that Mount Hua wasn't far from their base, Jinshan suggested collecting the clothing and belongings of those who had died that day and scattering them around Mount Hua. They could make it appear as if they were attacked by the Mount Hua sect on their way to the bandits' base. Jinshan knew that the Wudang sect might not fall for it, but it would create confusion and buy them time to figure out how to survive. Peng Ho was amazed by Jinshan's scheme. When Jinshan asked him, "What scheme?" and told Peng Ho not to make him look like a villain, Seol, upon hearing the word villain, called her grandpa and said, "Grappa, Bilan, Bilan." Jinshan laughed and said he didn't mind becoming a villain as long as Seol was safe. For the sake of raising Seol well, Jinshan was willing to do anything. On the other side, the bandits were diligently training because they never knew when the Wudang sect would attack again. Jinshan remarked to Peng Ho that military martial arts were only suitable for the battlefield and not effective in the Murim. In response, Peng Ho requested guidance from Jinshan, who chuckled and said he didn't have that much energy to spare. Instead, he had another plan. They visited their hostage, Yun He, who immediately shouted at Jinshan to let her out or she would make him regret it. Jinshan explained that letting her go would result in even more regret, as she would likely return with the Wudang sect. Jinshan noted her appearance and observed that she seemed undernourished, so he instructed the bandits to bring over some food. Upon seeing the delicious food, Yun He's mouth watered, but she resisted, stating they couldn't break the Wudang sect's pride with mere food. Jinshan assured her he had no intention of forcing her to eat. However, he advised her to keep in mind that he would clean up those plates in 30 minutes. Yun Li could smell the delicious food, and her saliva slowly dripped from her mouth. Seol, who was behind Jinshan's leg, also had her eyes fixed on the tempting food. Jinshan asked his granddaughter if she was hungry, but he clarified that the food wasn't meant for them. While looking at Yun Li, Jinshan asked what they should do. Looking anxious, Yun Li urged them to eat, prompting little Seol to rush and start eating the food. Jinshan laughed and expressed gratitude to Yun Li, appreciating that her granddaughter could now enjoy a satisfying meal. He jokingly mentioned that he would clean up in 7 minutes but wondered if any food would be left by then. Unable to resist the temptation of watching Seol enjoy her meal, a conflicted Yun Li stepped out of her cell and snatched the food from Seol's hand. She began eating voraciously, akin to a hungry monster, savoring the deliciousness of the food while tears streamed down her face. After finishing the meal, Jinshan suggested to Yun Li that they go outside for some fresh air. Having been locked up for 10 days, Yun Li felt a newfound sense of freedom. Jinshan led her to a room with water, telling her that she had 30 minutes. Recognizing that she must have felt uncomfortable due to the lack of proper washing during her captivity, Jinshan was considerate of her needs. However, without waiting for him to finish speaking, Yun Li closed the door behind her. As she immersed herself in a bath, she felt as though she were melting away, the sensation akin to being in heaven rather than a den of bandits. After the refreshing bath, Yun Li emerged as a completely transformed person. Under the enchanting hues of the sunset, Jinshan and Yun Li strolled together. Yun Li marveled at the sight of wildflowers in full bloom, captivated by their beauty. However, the moment was short-lived. Jinshan, breaking the serene atmosphere, suggested that they should head back. Feeling uneasy, Yun Li questioned Jinshan about their destination. To her dismay, Jinshan guided her back to her original place, instructing her to change back into her blood-stained uniform. Reluctant and distressed, Yun Li questioned why Jinshan would treat her like this, to which Jinshan responded that, as their prisoner, it was unavoidable. Suddenly, Yun Li confessed that she was wrong. Perplexed, Jinshan inquired about what she meant and reassured her that she hadn't done anything wrong. With teary eyes, Yun Li expressed that if they were going to lock her up again, she would prefer Jinshan to kill her instead. After pondering for a moment, Jinshan suggested that she could continue enjoying days like today, but there needed to be an exchange of something of equal value. This statement left Yun Li wondering what Jinshan wanted, and then she suddenly realized something. However, before she could voice her thoughts, Jinshan unexpectedly pierced various parts of Yun Li's body with his fingers, causing her to lose consciousness. Jinshan cryptically mentioned that she would soon find out what it is they want, leaving an ominous air of uncertainty. Chapter 9. Upon waking up in her cell, Yun Li found herself imagining the delicious food she had once tasted, reminiscing about the time she took a refreshing bath and watched the flowers bloom. Amidst these thoughts, she couldn't hold back her tears. It all brought back the memory of what Jinshan had said to her, the idea that she could enjoy such experiences every day, but it came at the cost of giving Jinshan something of equal value. For Yun Li, however, that seemed impossible. Anything else might be acceptable to her, but not that. Jinshan asked Yun Li if she had been pondering it all night, but with high pride, she ignored him. Jinshan then informed her that he didn't know when he would return, so if she had made up her mind, she needed to speak up now. Yun Li contemplated the consequences. If she refused, would they imprison her until her death? However, even if she were to return to her sect after her release, Yun Li decided to comply with Jinshan's request. Now engaged in conversation, Jinshan released her from the cell and escorted her to the training ground. There, he asked her to impart her martial arts knowledge to the bandits, specifically the swordsmanship of the long-standing Wudang sect, a discipline where each movement holds the value of 10,000 taels of gold. Despite Jinshan having observed her for only a brief period, her martial arts skills were exceptional even for a second-generation disciple. Teaching these techniques could greatly benefit the bandits. However, Yun Li was conscious of the consequences. If the Wudang sect were to discover her actions, they wouldn't let her off lightly. She was well aware of the risks involved. Reflecting on her painful past with the Wudang sect, where its members consistently looked down on her, treated her as insignificant, and occasionally exploited her, Yun Li made a firm decision. She preferred facing excommunication over remaining confined and perishing in her current situation. Peng Ho arrived and ordered everyone to extend their greetings to their instructor. As Yun Li observed the earnestness with which they greeted her, she realized that these individuals hailed from the military and were highly enthusiastic about learning. Peng Ho requested Yun Li to provide them with guidance and handed her a sword. Yun Li also sensed that Peng Ho appeared to be more proficient in martial arts than herself. She couldn't fathom Peng Ho bowing his head in such a manner. Yun Li began to unsheath her sword, instructing everyone to observe closely. She proceeded to demonstrate the Wudang sect's swordsmanship. Those who witnessed her performance were left in awe, recognizing the incredible and impressive skills of their instructor. Yun Li then explained that the sword technique she had demonstrated was the fundamental technique of the Wudang sect. She emphasized that with a solid foundation and absolute mastery, they could stand undefeated against any first-class sword technique. Now, they would embark on the journey of learning it together. A few days later, Yun Li, feeling fatigued after the intensive training sessions, believed that her students should now be capable of cultivating their skills independently. To her surprise, they presented her with a delicious meal. As she savored the food, Yun Li marveled at the bandits' excellent cooking skills. Their hospitality had allowed her to eat well and enjoy ample rest. Despite being the most skilled among the second-generation disciples of the Wudang sect and possessing knowledge of all martial arts, except for first-class techniques, she had always been treated with coldness at the Wudang sect. This marked the first time she experienced such warmth and consideration. She wondered if this was akin to the sensation of being treated as nobility in the imperial palace. Suddenly, a thought struck Yun Li, prompting her to rise from her bed and cautiously peer outside. Typically, there would be layers of surveillance at night, but today, she sensed no energy. Seeing this as an opportunity, she swiftly made her way to the woods, scaling the barricade to freedom. Upon landing, Jinshan confronted her, causing her to jump back, readying her sword. Inquiring why she would soil the beautiful set of clothes he had worked hard to get her, Jinshan acknowledged that since she had kept her promise, she could confidently leave through the front door. However, he questioned her destination, expressing doubt about her return to the Wudang sect. Advising her to rest until dawn, Jinshan promised to speak to the bandit leader to provide travel expenses and food. Yun Li, realizing she had nowhere to go, understood that the consequences of teaching the Wudang sect swordsmanship to bandits were far-reaching, excommunication being the least of her worries. As morning dawned, Yun Li opened her door to find that, as expected, Jinshan had kept his promise. Soon after, Peng Ho and his subordinates arrived, expressing their concern about how they could have ever held her back. Touched by their sincerity, Yun Li considered staying a little longer and informed them that she was not leaving just yet. Peng Ho acknowledged that their relationship had started in the worst way imaginable, but he hoped she would depart with only good memories. Though Yun Li asserted she wasn't leaving immediately, Peng Ho instructed his subordinates to bid farewell to their instructor, wishing her a long and prosperous life. Clutching the bag of food they had given her, Yun Li turned her back as the bandits waved their hands in farewell. They urged her to be careful on her journey and to depart quickly. Abruptly, Yun Li halted and remarked, "Actually, you won't be able to unleash the full power of the Clarity Sword technique without incorporating the accompanying footwork techniques of the Wudang sect. Peng Ho approached Yun Li, asking her to pardon his confusion and requesting her to repeat what she had said. Yun Li explained that they also needed to learn the footwork. However, Peng Ho persisted, claiming he couldn't hear her clearly. Frustrated, Yun Li raised her voice, declaring that she would stay and teach them the Wudang sect's footwork as well. Touched by her consideration, Peng Ho expressed his gratitude and asked if it was all right for her to stay longer and guide them. Yun Li agreed, stating that since they had requested it. Watching from a distance, Jinshan advised the group to take care of the instructor once again. As Peng Ho guided their instructor, Yun Li, she informed him that she would only stay a little while longer. Jinshan chuckled, contemplating how well the two of them got along. Regardless, with everything proceeding according to their plans, it was time for Seol to start learning the spear arts. And here concludes the latest chapter of our story. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated for the next chapters. Thank you so much for watching. Chapter 10. Half a year later, Jinshan felt a sense of unease. Despite the disappearance of several disciples, the Wudang sect had not shown any signs of activity. He wondered whether his plan to incite conflict between the Mount Hua sect and the Wudang sect had succeeded, or if there was a significant event that rendered them indifferent to the activities of mere bandits. Regardless, discerning the reason seemed impossible. At present, Jinshan's primary concern was the challenge of feeding Seol. He faced difficulty as Seol detested carrots. In response, Jinshan advised her to abstain from consuming them. Expressing his frustration about Seol's apparent lack of understanding regarding the value of food, he departed. However, he soon returned, surprising Seol with a bowl of meat porridge, which she enjoyed, leading her to eat heartily. Jinshan believes it makes no difference whether Seol has meat or mushrooms in her porridge. Everything in the world is at the discretion of his granddaughter. Despite the many peaceful days they have experienced, Jinshan has no time to relax. He must promptly accumulate 180 years' worth of inner qi. He continued to endure recurring, crushing headaches, acknowledging the limited effectiveness of suppressing the tumor with poison. Recognizing the urgency, he felt compelled to expedite the process of body reconstruction, aiming to exact revenge just a day sooner. Additionally, his responsibility extended to safeguarding Seol until she reached maturity. While focusing on inner qi training remained crucial, he couldn't afford to overlook his martial arts regimen. Acknowledging that it was premature for Seol to handle the spear, Jinshan planned to gradually introduce her to it. Having observed him practicing with the spear, Seol's interest piqued, prompting him to impart the intricacies of their family's Liu spear techniques to her. Among all elements, wind possesses the most flexible characteristics, rendering it impervious to disruption. The essence of the Liu family spear technique is rooted in the principles of the wind. Despite the wind's global embrace of soft and pliable traits, its concentrated force at a singular point yields formidable destructive power, capable of piercing even the toughest rocks. This phenomenon embodies the essence of their Liu family's annihilating wind spear. In times long past, the Liu family's spear art stood as a formidable force in the competition for the world's strongest position. At its zenith, a legendary expert, their ancestor known as the Spear Demon, occupied the central role. Even the elaborate and potent spear arts of the prestigious Liang family paled in comparison to his might. The Spear Demon asserted dominance across the world with the formidable prowess of the annihilating wind spear. However, the fortunes of the Liu family took a downturn after the secret manual left by the Spear Demon was lost. The family forfeited the formidable power they once wielded, leaving them with only the Fire Dragon Divine Spear. Contemplating their predicament, Jinshan pondered the possibility of reclaiming their lost strength if only they could rediscover the ancestral manual left behind by the Spear Demon. Seol called out to her grandpa, expressing her desire for him to give her the spear. Even though the weapon was still too large for her, Jinshan encouraged her to attempt wielding it. Seol struggled to grasp the spear due to her small hands, and ultimately, unable to hold it, she exclaimed, "Grappa, bad." Observing her frustration, Jinshan turned around and spotted a bamboo stick that would be a perfect fit for Seol. As she held the stick, her expressions mirrored those of an expert. Jinshan cautioned her to be careful not to fall and invited her to join him in the training. Jinshan commenced teaching Seol the inaugural movement of their Liu family spear techniques, emphasizing extreme speed, executed through fundamental footwork. This high-speed spear art afforded opponents minimal room for evasion once unleashed. After demonstrating the technique, Jinshan inquired whether Seol could replicate the intricate footwork. He believed that, at the very least, she should be capable of imitating the movements. While observing Seol, Jinshan sensed a playful element in her actions, prompting him to ask if she was attempting to showcase her cuteness. However, as he continued to watch, he discerned a surprising revelation. The trajectory of Seol's bamboo spear adhered precisely to the principles of their family's spear techniques. The fluidity mirrored his own demonstration. Jinshan found it difficult to fathom that Seol could grasp so much merely by observing his training, prompting him to ponder whether this was a manifestation of the attributes of the immortal sound body constitution. Intrigued by the prospect, he contemplated the possibility of witnessing the resurgence of the spear demon at this rate. From this point onward, Jinshan resolved to wholeheartedly dedicate himself to Seol's training. However, an unexpected sensation, akin to a crack, sent discomfort through his back. Realizing he might have overexerted himself, he wisely opted to defer the rigorous training to the following day. While contemplating this decision, Jinshan detected a disturbance in the forest where he had set up a string. Intrigued and on alert, he pondered the identity of the intruders. To his surprise, Yun Li, along with other bandits, emerged from the shadows. The sight of Yun Li donning a tiger outfit and being addressed as General Manager by her comrades caught Jinshan off guard. It was startling for him to envision a second-generation disciple of the Wudang sect assuming such a role within a bandit group. The group brought back meat from a wild boar they had successfully caught, supplementing it with rabbit meat. As soon as Seol recognized the presence of meat, she dashed excitedly toward Yun Li. Despite Yun Li's attempt to insist that the load was heavy and she would carry it, Seol adamantly grabbed the bounty and sprinted toward the house. Yun Li, taken aback, marveled at Seol's unexpected strength and determination in managing the weight with apparent ease. Curiosity etched across Jinshan's face. He urged them to cut to the chase, skeptical that their visit was merely about delivering food. Yun Li, in response, asked Jinshan if he hadn't heard the news yet. Concern flickered in Jinshan's thoughts, considering the possibility that the troublesome individuals from the Wudang sect were making a move. However, Yun Li dispelled this notion, asserting that they likely had bigger matters to contend with at the moment. According to her, a significant event capable of upending the entire Jianghu was currently unfolding. Chapter 11. Jinshan, eager for more information, requested Yun Li to elaborate on the unfolding situation. In response, she inquired whether Jinshan was familiar with the Sword Empress. His confident response, of course, underscored the notion that while martial artists might be oblivious to the current emperor, it was inconceivable for them not to recognize the world's foremost martial master. Yun Li proceeded to explain that the Sword Empress was rumored to be soon undertaking the ritual of returning to a virtuous life, set to take place in Baiyang County, not far from their current location. Jinshan, seemingly unimpressed, questioned whether it was that significant. In response, Yun Li affirmed the magnitude of the event, emphasizing that it was, after all, the Sword Empress's ritual. The ritual of returning to a virtuous life was a formal retirement ceremony in which martial artists sought to leave Jianghu, unburdened by past favors and grudges. However, the successful completion of this ritual was a rare feat. It presented a golden opportunity for enemies from across Jianghu to seek revenge, especially in the case of the Sword Empress. She had defeated countless individuals, regardless of their affiliation with orthodox or unorthodox sects, leaving them with defeats more humiliating than death. The approaching ceremony drew a significant gathering of martial artists, many of whom were unfamiliar to the local residents. The influx of people ensured a rich source of news, as the more attendees there were, the greater the variety of stories circulating through Jianghu. Yun Li contemplated the potential to gather information about the Liu family's incident at the upcoming ceremony. However, Jinshan abruptly interrupted her, cautioning against using the incident as an excuse to wander freely. He advised her to adopt a more discreet approach, emphasizing that to prolong her life, it would be wise to remain hidden, much like a rat. Jinshan further pointed out the risks, questioning what Yun Li believed the Wudang sect would do if they spotted her. Additionally, he reminded her that he was a wanted man, and an old man carrying a baby on his back would undoubtedly attract attention. Acknowledging the risks, Yun Li revealed that she had her own reasons for seeking Jinshan's assistance. Holding Seol as if she were her own child, she asked Jinshan if they appeared as a convincing mother and daughter. With Seol in the mix, they could pass as a normal family. Yun Li reassured Jinshan that, even in the worst-case scenario, the ritual of returning to a virtuous life prohibited personal conflicts. She urged him not to worry, explaining that fights between individuals were strictly forbidden during the ceremony. Yun Li proposed that they could observe the retirement ceremony from a distance, assuring Jinshan that anyone violating the rule and drawing their sword in Bayan County would instantly become a public enemy of the entire Muram. Yun Li's rationale resonated with Jinshan, presenting an opportunity for him to personally investigate those responsible for his family's incident. As he contemplated the idea, Yun Li unexpectedly seized him and declared, "Let's go together, father," expressing her intent to take care of him. To Jinshan's astonishment, he questioned when exactly she had become his daughter. Excitement surged through them at the prospect of witnessing the Sword Empress, a figure they had only heard about, in person. A trio engaged in conversation, speculating about the potential grudges held against her. Their sole intention was to be spectators, observing others engage in combat during the upcoming ceremony. Rumors of the Sword Empress's unparalleled martial arts prowess and extraordinary beauty fueled their anticipation. Among the trio, one individual pondered the audacious idea of attempting to seduce the Sword Empress. However, a more cautious comrade swiftly warned him of the severe consequences, emphasizing that a careless word might result in his head being sent flying. Jinshan walked through the trio, politely excusing himself as he passed. The individuals were taken aback, surprised to see an entire family present to watch the events unfold. In response, Yun Li, playing the role of Jinshan's fake daughter, inquired if there was anything he wanted to eat. Jinshan casually mentioned that a bowl of noodles would suffice. Yun Li insisted that he could indulge in something better since leader Peng Ho had generously provided them with an ample allowance. Jinshan chuckled and jokingly asked Yun Li if they had already become that close. Upon arriving at a restaurant, they noticed the bustling crowd and speculated that most were martial artists there to witness the Sword Empress. Aware that the atmosphere could become volatile if people indulged in excessive drinking, they acknowledged the need for caution. While the no-fight order during the ceremony should mitigate the danger, they remained vigilant and prepared for any unforeseen circumstances that might arise. They placed an order for meat noodle soup and meat dumplings, knowing that as long as it had meat, Seol could enjoy everything. While sipping on his drink, Jinshan discreetly tried to eavesdrop on the conversations around them. Thus far, discussions had centered solely on the Sword Empress, leaving Jinshan to contemplate whether he should abandon hope of acquiring additional information. However, a disrespectful voice cut through the restaurant as someone brusquely called the waiter, demanding another bottle of alcohol. In a condescending tone, they expressed impatience about the snacks they had ordered earlier, disdainfully remarking that they shouldn't expect much from the countryside and insisting that the waiter hurry up. Chapter 12. One hit. Someone of his kind would be dispatched with a single blow from her. Had she drawn her sword a bit faster, his head might have truly been severed. However, it appeared that the individual sensed the imminent danger. When questioned about his actions, he hesitated and was reminded by the lady that if he intended to draw his sword, he should proceed. Yet, he refrained, insisting that there was a misunderstanding. The lady clarified that she was merely inquiring, emphasizing that it seemed like there was a mutual misunderstanding. She walked away, advising them to enjoy their meal before departing. The two men, relieved to be alive, expressed gratitude for the unexpected mercy shown by the lady. The presence of Sword Empress Soso left Jinshan in awe, unable to fathom the extent of her strength. Witnessing the Sword Empress in person exceeded their expectations. Despite recognizing the recklessness of their decision to come here, felt a sense of gladness that they did. Jinshan congratulated Yun Li on witnessing her desired moment with the Sword Empress and suggested it was time to return to the mountain. Perplexed, Yun Li questioned why they should leave, considering the imminent retirement ceremony of the Sword Empress. Jinshan explained that the ceremony might not be the most suitable place to gather information. However, their decision was interrupted by shouts from the crowd, announcing the sighting of the Muram Alliance leader. The unexpected development stirred curiosity and potential new avenues for information. Jinshan's realization dawned as he sensed an incredible aura from afar. It was the presence of the Muram Alliance leader. The thought crossed his mind that among this gathering, there might be someone who framed him for the incident involving his family. With so many influential figures present, leaving the scene seemed like a missed opportunity. Consequently, Jinshan resolved to follow the crowd, watching the events unfold from a discreet distance. The sight of the Muram Alliance leader left them intrigued as they had never seen her before. Questions arose about when she had assumed the position. Around a year ago, there had been considerable commotion in Zhonghu regarding a member of the Ma sect who became the youngest alliance leader. It was surprising to witness how, at such a young age, she had risen to become the top master of the 9 Great Sect One clan. The revelation that the Muram Alliance leader assumed her position about a year ago coincided with the timeframe of Jinshan's family tragedy. Rumors circulated that the leader's eye had been injured by the Sword Empress, though the veracity of such claims remained uncertain. As they approached the retirement ceremony, warriors from the Muram Alliance blocked the road, instructing everyone to return and prohibiting their participation. Frustration spread among the crowd, especially considering the considerable effort it took to reach the location. A sense of injustice grew as people questioned why certain individuals, notably those in black, were allowed to proceed. Jinshan, keenly observant, recognized them as the elite squad from the Muram Alliance. Tensions escalated as numerous individuals grew increasingly upset about being barred from attending the Sword Empress's retirement ceremony. However, their attempts to push forward were abruptly halted when a guard deployed his sword chi to draw a line. With an ominous warning, he declared that the line symbolized the boundary between life and death, inviting anyone willing to cross it to face the consequences. The guard, identified as the merciless sword dragon Wang Hill, made it clear that those desiring their own demise were free to disregard the warning and proceed. Jinshan, curious about the formidable figure named Wang Hill, inquired about his identity. Yun Li enlightened him, explaining that Wang Hill was one of the 3 great swordsmen of Sichuan, renowned for his ruthlessness and his tendency to spare no lives in sword clashes. As anticipated, the imposing reputation of Wang Hill deterred anyone from daring to cross the designated boundary. A few moments later, a voice resonated through a wide-area sound transmission, politely requesting passage. "Respected brothers, please allow me to pass." Jinshan marveled at the unexpected turn of events, realizing he was about to witness a unique experience. Then, the Sword Empress appeared, holding a cup. In an instant, she accelerated with incredible speed and came to a sudden halt in front of merciless sword dragon Wang Hill. Calmly, she inquired about what they should do, as it seemed like she had crossed the line. Caught off guard, Wang Hill found himself without a response. Seizing the moment, the Sword Empress proceeded through, leaving those present in awe of her presence and abilities. Stunned by the Sword Empress's unexpected move, the merciless sword dragon Wang Hill remained frozen. Observing this momentary lapse, some people saw an opportunity to advance, attempting to move forward. However, Wang Hill quickly snapped them back to reality, issuing a stern reminder that he would unquestionably strike down anyone attempting to cross the line. His threat reinstated a sense of caution, halting the crowd's attempts to breach the boundary. Feeling disheartened by the apparent impossibility of entering, Jinshan decided it was best to retreat. As he observed Seol peacefully sleeping, a sudden shockwave shook the surroundings. It became evident that the ritual of returning to a virtuous life had commenced. The irregularity in the shockwaves indicated that this was not a fair and balanced duel. It seemed the elders from the orthodox sects had forsaken their pride in favor of a less honorable approach. A radiant light emanated from the building, revealing the presence of the Sword Empress. To everyone's surprise, she returned and swiftly disarmed the guards by breaking their swords. In a graceful leap through the air, she caught sight of baby Seol and playfully winked at her. Jinshan couldn't help but notice the distinct wink from the Sword Empress directed toward Seol. Prominent figures among the top 10 martial masters of Muram were in pursuit of the Sword Empress, determined not to let her escape. Among the onlookers, questions arose about whether these elders of the orthodox sect were indeed resorting to a seemingly cowardly tactic of ganging up on the Sword Empress. Intrigued by the unfolding events, the crowd collectively decided to follow them closely, eager to observe how the situation would further develop. Jinshan marveled at the unprecedented sight before him. Over 1,000 martial artists skillfully performing body-lightening arts, creating a breathtaking spectacle that adorned the night sky. Lost in the mesmerizing display, he was abruptly snapped back to reality when Yun Li seized him and urgently reminded him there was no time to stand in a daze. The decisive battle between the Muram Alliance leader and the Sword Empress awaited, and they needed to witness the unfolding confrontation. Chapter 13. Despite Yun Li's eagerness to witness the decisive battle, Jinshan insisted that it was enough. He declared himself too old to run around just to observe others in combat. Expressing concern, he questioned how Yun Li could possibly chase after individuals who moved as swiftly as a flash of lightning, especially considering she was carrying a child. Jinshan went on to speculate that, in his opinion, most of those pursuing were likely heading in the wrong direction. Jinshan offered Yun Li a piece of advice, cautioning her that in Jianghu, excessive curiosity could significantly shorten one's lifespan. He emphasized that, being still young, she would have her opportunities someday. As they journeyed back to the mountain, Yun Li expressed concern about the well-being of the Sword Empress. From Jinshan's perspective, The Sword Empress seemed to be suffering from internal injuries, her face pale yet carefree. Yun Li felt relief and hoped for the Sword Empress's safety. Jinshan observed that, despite being a member of the Wudang sect, Yun Li wasn't actively rooting for the Murim alliance. Suddenly, Jinshan sensed something amiss and swiftly halted Yun Li. Advising her to conceal her presence, he intuited the proximity of an unknown presence. As they cautiously observed their surroundings, they stumbled upon a grim scene. Numerous lifeless bodies strewn across the path. Jinshan had intentionally chosen a mountainous route to avoid encountering martial artists, but the shocking sight caught them off guard. Behind Jinshan, he spotted a person named Dugu Seong. The realization struck him that even the strongest martial masters of the Murim alliance were now on the brink of death. Puzzled by the intense battle that must have unfolded, he pondered the circumstances leading to this gruesome scene. Yun Li also noticed the elder of the Wudang sect, Taoist Master Jin Gang. She initially believed there was no way he would recognize her, but to her surprise, Elder Jin Gang did. He called out to her, urging her to come over. Curious, he asked Yun Li why she was pretending not to know him when he had taken special care of her. Jinshan quickly interjected, informing Elder Jin Gang that he had mistaken Yun Li for someone else. However, when Elder Jin Gang insisted she come over, Yun Li instinctively obeyed the command. Elder Jin Gang then pointed out the Sword Empress, asking Yun Li if she saw her. The Sword Empress was channeling her chi, and Jinshan marveled at her ability to conceal her presence, wondering if she was indeed suffering from serious internal injuries. Elder Jin Gang issued a shocking command to Yun Li, instructing her to put an end to the Sword Empress. He assured her that the Sword Empress wouldn't be able to move, making the task seemingly straightforward. Furthermore, he tempted Yun Li with the promise that not only would he refrain from inquiring about the events that transpired, but he would also elevate her to the status of a hero within the Murim alliance. This tempting offer stirred thoughts in Yun Li's mind, envisioning a future where she would return to Mount Wudang as a hero. The prospect of becoming the first senior sister or even someone more suited for the future position of sect master of the esteemed Wudang sect tantalized her imagination. Elder Jin Gang handed a sword to Yun Li while she verbally acknowledged his apparent care for her. However, Yun Li swiftly turned the tables, using the sword to eliminate Elder Jin Gang. She confronted him, questioning if he still regarded her as a pushover. Astounded that Elder Jin Gang managed to protect his vital organs, Yun Li couldn't believe it. However, the elder's anger was interrupted as a flying spear suddenly pierced through him, adding a new layer of complexity to the unfolding situation. After retrieving his spear, Jinshan faced Jin Gang's warning that they would pay for their actions, especially with the alliance leader's imminent arrival. In response, Jinshan discarded his disguise, calling the elder in his true identity as Wudang sect's first-generation disciple, Chang Miang. He asked the elder if he recognized him, and indeed, Jin Gang acknowledged Jinshan as Shaanxi's best spear. They were comrades in the Murim Alliance subjugation squad over 40 years ago, fighting against the demonic cult. Jinshan took charge, insisting on asking the questions first. He queried Jin Gang about the motive behind the brutal murder of his children by the Murim Alliance. Despite Jin Gang's claim of ignorance, Jinshan pressed further, emphasizing the contradiction of admitting involvement without knowledge of the motive. Yun Li warned of the Murim Alliance leader's imminent arrival, prompting Jinshan to bid farewell to Jin Gang, expressing his intent to hear his excuses in hell. As they prepared to depart, Seol woke up and saw the Sword Empress. Seol recognized her and started talking about her, leaving Jinshan to wonder about the situation. Considering the circumstances, he informed the Sword Empress that although they may not know each other, fate had brought them together. Jinshan expressed his intention to bring Sword Empress Soso to a safe place. To ensure the Sword Empress was comfortable with the arrangement, he told her that if she disagreed, she could simply nod her head once. Individuals who have reached this level are said to have no restrictions due to the free flow of blood vessels. If they make up their minds, they can exert their power at any time. If Yun Li had attempted to harm the Sword Empress as the elder had instructed, they would have faced fatal consequences. With their decision made, they started their journey to Mount Yangzhou. Jinshan had contemplated taking the Sword Empress back home, and now that their decision was finalized, there was no turning back. Jinshan had endured considerable challenges. Despite shouldering the bulk of the hard work, Yun Li had also contributed significantly. Recognizing the need for the Sword Empress to recover and for himself to get some rest, Jinshan suggested that Yun Li could return to the mountain. However, Yun Li offered her assistance if he needed help with anything, to which Jinshan replied that his burden would only increase if she stayed. Undeterred, Yun Li expressed her intention to return with food and medicine. Feeling the ache in his entire body, Jinshan wondered why he had to endure such hardships at his age. As he prepared to rest, Seol approached, expressing a desire for meat. Jinshan realized she must be hungry, leading him to acknowledge the challenges of caring for a child. Despite his weariness, Jinshan decided to stand up and make some meat soup for Seol. Unfortunately, his tumor flared up again, and as he searched for the nerve suppression pill, he couldn't locate it, suspecting it may have fallen out during his night of using the body lightening art. In the midst of his suffering from a severe headache, Seol, with a worried expression, ran to her grandpa. Jinshan, experiencing intense pain, questioned whether he would die like this and apologized to his granddaughter. Just moments later, the Sword Empress woke up and exited the door. Having enjoyed a peaceful sleep, she noticed Seol crying and wondered what had happened. And here concludes the latest chapter of our story. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated for the next chapters. Thank you so much for watching. Chapter 14. Upon waking up, Sword Empress Soso observed the crying child and introduced herself. Seol, in turn, shared her name upon inquiry. The Sword Empress noticed the resemblance between them and identified it as the immortal echoing physique, a physical constitution endowed with natural talent in various fields, including martial arts. Individuals born with this physique possess the 5 senses of the immortals. However, if these abilities are misused, there is a risk of corruption, as seen in the cases of the Silver Flower Granny, the great demon who once terrified the entire Murim, and the Jade Divine Witch, Yin Solhua, the leader of the demonic cult. Consequently, the potential for this physique to become a seed of disaster cannot be overlooked. Seol wondered what the Sword Empress meant by saying they were alike. However, the Sword Empress assured Seol that she would grow up to be as cute and kind as she is now. As they heard Jinshan scream due to his headache, Sword Empress Soso went to help him and inquired about what he had been eating. Sensing the poison spreading throughout Jinshan's body, she carefully expelled the toxins from the nerve suppression pill. This alarmed Jinshan, as he had been using the poisonous qi to suppress the tumor. Sword Empress Soso discovered that Jinshan had intentionally been ingesting poison because of a small object in his head. When Jinshan attempted to ask her how she found out, the Sword Empress advised him to stop moving, as any movement could be life-threatening. Suddenly, Jinshan felt an incredible rush of inner qi flooding into his head like a wave. The burden that had weighed on his head for the past 10 years was breaking apart like rocks. Jinshan now understood why Sword Empress Soso was known as the strongest. He couldn't believe that such a treatment existed. This procedure caused the Sword Empress to break a sweat. After the treatment, Jinshan's head felt unbelievably clear, as if he had been reborn. Jinshan asked Soso if she had truly cured his tumor, expressing his gratitude and unsure of how he could repay her. Sword Empress Soso mentioned that she was also surprised by Jinshan's efforts to save her. She revealed having a connection to the place they were in and, when asked if she was the owner, stated that the actual owner was someone close to her. She assured Jinshan that he could use it freely, as the owner would not return. Furthermore, she promised Seol a gift as well. When Seol asked if the gift was meat, Soso replied that it was something even better. Suddenly, Seol began to float. Soso observed that Seol already possessed a considerable amount of inner qi and had undergone body reconstruction. Sensing Jinshan's concern, she reassured him, explaining that from now on, she would show Seol the universe. Soso believed that if Seol could comprehend the universe, the foundation of all things, she could achieve enlightenment. Jinshan wondered how a 2-year-old baby could achieve this, to which Soso replied that it was preferable before Seol was corrupted by worldly affairs, as she was currently in the purest state of the beginning. A few moments later, a brilliant light suddenly struck Seol, and she absorbed it remarkably well. Seol is now breaking through into the unrestrained realm. Upon reaching this state, one becomes impervious to heat and cold, the flow of qi becomes unobstructed, and one attains the level of a Superman. In essence, it is a state achievable only by absolute martial masters, such as the top 10 martial masters of Murim. Jinshan found it hard to believe that such a young child like Seol had reached the unrestrained realm. Sword Empress Soso explained that only by breaking out of the mold Seol had created could she awaken to the Tao and become an immortal, emphasizing that destiny always comes unexpectedly. Grateful for the great gift his granddaughter had received, Jinshan expressed his desire to treat the Sword Empress to a meal. While appreciative, the Sword Empress declined, stating that she must depart. With her retirement ceremony concluded, she mentioned having a place to go. When Jinshan inquired why Sword Empress Soso retired despite appearing to be in her prime, she revealed that she was heading to the western regions. She believed something had happened to her parents who had ventured there a few years ago. Soso expressed her sense of responsibility, stating that she needed to address all past favors and grudges before departing because there was a possibility she might never return. Jinshan expressed his confidence that Sword Empress Soso would navigate through any challenges that came her way. Wishing her luck, he bid her farewell, and Soso departed. Jinshan contemplated the unprecedented achievement of Seol reaching the unrestrained realm at such a young age, a phenomenon unprecedented in Mirim's history. Despite no longer worrying about a sudden demise due to his tumor, Jinshan recognized the importance of achieving body reconstruction, protecting Seol until she grew up, and seeking vengeance for their family. When Jinshan called Seol to eat, he noticed that she was nowhere to be found. Alert and wary, Jinshan quickly grabbed his spear, suspecting a surprise attack and pondering the identity of the potential attacker. However, to his surprise, he discovered Seol jumping above the house. Knowing that Seol, now an unrestrained realm martial master, wouldn't be harmed, Jinshan couldn't help but worry as her grandfather. Expressing his concern, Jinshan advised Seol not to climb up there again. However, Seol disagreed, finding it immensely enjoyable and declaring it to be a fun activity. Seol, in the meantime, observed that big sister Yun Li was approaching and pointed out to Jinshan the direction from which she was coming. This revelation made Jinshan realize that Seol had developed the ability to sense people's presence before him. When Yun Li arrived, she informed Jinshan that she had come to see the Sword Empress, but she had already left. Curious about the progress of the other kids, Jinshan inquired if they were training well. Yun Li responded positively, mentioning that most of them had mastered the Clarity Sword technique. Feeling optimistic, Jinshan also expressed interest in learning one of Wu Dang's martial arts from Yun Li. When asked which technique he wanted to learn, Jinshan chose the cloud stepping technique. This body-lightening art was a hallmark of the Wudang sect, enabling practitioners to move freely in the air as if walking on clouds. However, Jinshan was aware that mastering this technique required substantial inner qi and extensive training, as its power varied significantly based on proficiency levels. Even though Yun Li could only imitate the cloud stepping technique due to its stamina requirements, she expressed concern about whether it might be too challenging for Jinshan. However, Jinshan clarified that he wasn't the one intending to learn it. Instead, he made a request for Yun Li to teach Seol that particular technique. However, Yun Li hesitated, pointing out that Seol was only 2 years old, and she didn't want the child to get hurt. In response, Jinshan demonstrated something to Yun Li by going to hold a tree. She was amazed to see what Jinshan did and thought that his attack should have completely destroyed the inside of the tree, yet there wasn't even a scratch left on the surface. The technique Jinshan demonstrated was the Liu family's Heaven and Earth Palm. Jinshan proposed a martial arts exchange with Yun Li. If she taught Seol the cloud stepping technique, he would pass on the Liu family's Heaven and Earth Palm to her. Feeling excited about the offer, Yun Li eagerly inquired if she could start teaching Seol the cloud stepping technique the following day. Chapter 15. Starting the next day, they initiated training sessions every day. Despite Seol being born with a constitution similar to the Sword Empress, it was challenging for a 2-year-old to grasp the principles of martial arts. As expected, progress was slower than anticipated. About a month passed, and after observing Yun Li's demonstrations, Seol unexpectedly began to learn the body-lightening art on her own. This development showcased Seol's remarkable talent, but it was noted that her landing skills were still lacking. Yun Li praised Seol for her progress, acknowledging her efforts and skill. She shared a sentiment with Seol, advising her not to forget about her, even if Seol were to become famous in the future. Yun Li expressed confidence that with a bit more training, Seol would overcome any issues with landing. Jinshan also commended Yun Li for her remarkable teaching abilities, highlighting the incredible feat of instructing a 2-year-old in martial arts. This recognition positioned Yun Li as a great martial master capable of raising a martial sovereign, emphasizing her expertise and influence in the Mirim world. Yun Li pointed out that what Seol was doing differed slightly from the cloud stepping technique of the Wudang sect. Seol's movement resembled that of the wind. Both Yun Li and Jinshan seemed to prefer this unique style, as it would prevent anyone from accusing Seol of secretly stealing and learning Wudang's martial arts. Since Jinshan had already taught Yun Li the Liu family's Heaven and Earth Palm, he declared that their martial arts exchange deal was now concluded. Yun Li expressed her desire to teach Seol something else, but Jinshan indicated that he didn't have any more martial arts to exchange. Despite this, Yun Li insisted that it was okay, emphasizing her eagerness to continue teaching Seol. However, their conversation was interrupted by the bandits who came to inform General Manager Yun Li about an invasion by the Soaring Tiger stronghold. The invaders had reportedly looted innocent civilians in their territory. This news angered Yun Li, prompting her to inform Jinshan and Seol that she would return later. After Yun Li and the bandits left, Jinshan invited Seol to eat, and she requested meat. Deciding on duck soup for the day, Seol recalled the friendly pair of ducks they had seen in a river. Jinshan used this opportunity to share a lesson about friendship and reliance, suggesting that, like the ducks, people should have friends they can depend on. He expressed the idea that until Seol grew up, they could rely on each other. However, Seol felt sorry for the ducks, causing her to cry. When Jinshan asked if they shouldn't eat the ducks, Seol responded that she loved meat and didn't mind. On the other side, as Yun Li and the bandits were returning, they encountered members of the Soaring Tiger stronghold approaching them. Prepared for a fight, Yun Li was surprised when the members of the Soaring Tiger stronghold ran towards them, pleading for mercy. Perplexed, they investigated the situation and discovered an individual rampaging and single-handedly eliminating many people. Yun Li recognized this person as chivalrous sword Zheng Yun, one of the Wudang Four Swords. In the meantime, the leader of the Soaring Tiger stronghold, Wal Yesong, blamed the Black Mountain Blade for provoking the Wudang sect, asserting that they were all suffering due to this conflict. Peng Ho attempted to pacify him and proposed collaboration, emphasizing the shared threat they faced. However, Wal Yesong remained adamant about seeking revenge for his subordinates. He urged a simultaneous attack when the formidable enemy entered the mountain. Yun Li intervened, dismissing the plan as futile, as the opponent was a peak martial master and one of the strongest first-generation disciples of the Wudang sect. The term, peak martial master, highlighted the pinnacle of martial prowess achievable before transcending into the unrestrained realm through enlightenment. Wal Yesong pressed Yun Li for confirmation, questioning whether they were expected to passively await their demise. Yun Li countered this notion, revealing that they, too, possessed an expert of comparable caliber. Peng Ho, contemplating the possibility of Jinshan's assistance, dispatched Sang Ji-yu to locate the elder and seek his involvement in the impending conflict. The situation escalated as chivalrous sword Zheng Yun confronted the bandits, expressing disbelief that mere bandits could possess Wudang swordsmanship. In a surprising twist, Wal Yesong revealed that they had learned from Yun Li and held her hostage, urging Zheng Yun to lower his weapon to ensure her safety. Zheng Yun then threw his sword down. As Wal Yesong attempted to charge and attack, Zheng Yun suddenly kicked his sword to retrieve it, injuring Wal Yesong in the process. He then questioned Yun Li about her actions, expressing disbelief that she would teach martial arts to such individuals. Yun Li apologized, explaining that fear had overwhelmed her. In response, Zheng Yun slapped her, emphasizing that as a disciple of the great Wudang, she should have chosen to take her own life instead. Peng Ho believes that their only option is to put their lives on the line and engage in the fight. Advising his comrades, he suggests that while they handle the adversary, the rest should disperse and escape because he cannot allow all of them to perish. Peng Ho further notes that no matter how swift the body lightning art may be, the opponent won't be able to chase down everyone. Chapter 16. Jinshan prepared to cook duck soup for Seol, who felt sorry for the poor duck. Jinshan asked her if she didn't want to eat it, but Seol expressed her love for meat. As Jinshan searched for the flint, Seol called him, saying she had fire. Jinshan was shocked to see that Seol had suddenly conjured a fire, the true Samadhi fire. She was performing a technique exclusive to absolute martial masters. He wondered how Seol accomplished it, as no one had ever taught her such skills. As they began to eat, someone suddenly knocked on their door, calling for Elder Jinshan because they were in trouble. The visitor reported that a martial master from the Wudang sect, at the peak of their realm, had arrived and the bandits sought Elder Jinshan's assistance. Jinshan expressed his willingness to help, stating that he didn't care if he died in the process, but he expressed concern for Seol. Unexpectedly, Seol told him to go and assist them, likening it to a duck. People should live while helping their friends. She reminded her grandfather of what he had said to her. Jinshan, moved by her words, grabbed his spear and instructed Seol to finish eating. He then left the house with the visitor. Chivalrous sword Jung Yun declared that he would spare no one, intending to make them crawl like bugs and trample on them before finishing them off. Peng Ho and Wall Yesong, believing the first to attack would have an advantage, initiated a joint assault on Jung Yun. However, both found themselves unable to contend with chivalrous sword Jung Yun, who seemed to be merely toying with them. Unbeknownst to Jung Yun, the moment he let his guard down was the chance they had been waiting for. Yun Li attempted to cut Jung Yun's feet, but he swiftly evaded the attack. Yun Li couldn't believe that Jung Yun had managed to dodge her strike in that particular situation. Jung Yun questioned the logic of a member of the esteemed Wudang sect colluding with bandits. Due to this betrayal, he expressed his intention to turn the ground into Yun Li's tomb. While Jung Yun was talking, Wall Yesong attempted to attack him. However, Jung Yun easily injured Wall Yesong with his sword and swiftly moved forward to confront Peng Ho. Peng Ho couldn't help but notice that Jung Yun's demeanor was completely different from before. He pondered whether this was the true strength of a Wudang sect's peak real martial master. Feeling as if it were the end, unexpectedly, Jinshan's spear blocked Jung Yun's attack. The group was relieved to see that Elder Jinshan had come to their aid. Jinshan then instructed everyone to step back, acknowledging that they were not Jung Yun's opponents. Upon seeing Jinshan, Jung Yun realized the reason why their Wudang junior brothers had lost to these bandits. The two of them formally introduced themselves and then engaged in combat. Jinshan believed that if he couldn't defeat Jung Yun in 3 rounds, he would be the one to perish. In the first round, their weapons clashed. In the second round, an explosion occurred. As they entered the third round, Jinshan staked everything on a decisive strike. Unfortunately, after the 3 rounds, Jinshan failed and sustained damage to his hand. Jung Yun continued his relentless attacks on Jinshan, who could only defend himself using the spear with one arm. Sensing that he couldn't endure much longer, Jinshan believed there was only one option left. He swung his spear recklessly, forcing Jung Yun to step back, and then deliberately splattered some of his blood on Jung Yun's face. In Jinshan's calculated plan, he anticipated that the moment Jung Yun severed his hand and became intoxicated with the scent of blood, he would use his spear to finish him. However, before this scenario unfolded, a cute little hand intervened, preventing the sword from cutting Jinshan's hand. Seol arrived and confronted Jung Yun, inquiring if he had harmed her grandpa. Chapter 17. A while ago, while Seol was eating, she felt frightened, prompting her to quickly move towards her grandpa. Upon seeing her grandpa injured, she rushed to his aid. Both Jinshan and Jung Yun were astonished by Seol's sudden appearance and her intervention that halted Jung Yun's attack. As Jung Yun attempted to retract his sword, he found himself unable to do so. Jinshan seized this opportunity to counterattack. He hurled the spear towards Jung Yun and executed the Liu family's Heaven and Earth Palm Fourth movement, known as the back lightning strike. The technique inflicted significant damage on Jung Yun, who, surprised by the power unleashed by Jinshan, questioned how a retired old man could possess such formidable inner chi. Following Jinshan's assault, Peng Ho directed the archer unit to unleash a barrage of arrows. Yun Li, astonished, couldn't believe that Jung Yun would resort to the donkey rolling technique, a move considered shameful by all martial artists. This indicated to her that Jung Yun was undoubtedly fatally injured. In response, General Manager Yun Li ordered everyone to attack simultaneously. Jung Yun found it difficult to believe how the situation had unfolded. As one of Wudang's 4 swords, losing to what he considered mere insects was beyond comprehension. He began to entertain the thought that perhaps the child was an absolute expert who had utilized the rejuvenating technique. Jung Yun acknowledged that he should have swiftly defeated them and departed. In the end, his arrogance had forced him to put his life on the line. As morning arrived, Peng Ho treated Jinshan's arm while Seol slept deeply. When Jinshan inquired about his injury, Peng Ho reassured him that it wasn't life-threatening, but he would no longer be able to wield the spear with either of his hands. They both recognized that, with one of the Wudang 4 swords now deceased, more formidable adversaries would likely come their way. Given the approaching winter, Jinshan advised that, for their survival, they should leave the area. Peng Ho expressed concern, mentioning their large family and the lack of a suitable destination. With no money, As they refrained from robbing civilians and instead shared their loot equally, Peng Ho was uncertain about their future. Jinshan questioned Peng Ho's worries, proposing a solution. They could undertake one last significant job and then escape before winter concluded. Yan Li excitedly asked Jinshan if he would be joining them. However, Jinshan felt insulted and questioned if she was suggesting that he should resort to robbing others. Yan Li understood that Jinshan needed money too if they were to find a new home with Seol. After contemplating the situation, Jinshan directed them to investigate corrupt officials who exploit civilians and loan sharks. Following this, Peng Ho and Yan Li took their leave. As night fell, Jinshan contemplated the idea of cutting the spear, recognizing that wielding it with just one hand was a daunting task. While the spear held sentimental value as a precious treasure of their Liu family, which had seen many battles, Jinshan prioritized protecting his family's hope. After deciding to cut the spear, he found that he could now wield it with one hand. Additionally, he considered trimming the remaining part of the spear to give to Seol. However, as he examined the spear, he unexpectedly noticed something in the hilt, a piece of parchment. Intrigued, he began to read it. Chapter 18. While reading the text, Jinshan discovered that it contained information about the annihilating wind spear, the spear technique that had established the Liu family as the foremost spear masters of Zhonghu. Astonishingly, he hadn't anticipated that the knowledge was hidden in plain sight. The secret manual for this unparalleled martial arts skill, a clue that their ancestors had been unable to find, had been within his grasp all along. His name is Liu Zhengfeng, a legendary martial master of the Liu family who earned fame as the spear demon long ago. This old man has wandered Murim all his life, never learning the word defeat. He believed that the only worthy opponents were the Sword Emperor and the Blade King, until recently when he found himself nearing death due to a severe injury. At this point, he couldn't even predict how much longer he would be able to live. They originated from Tianzhu in the western region and identified themselves as the Grand Heavenly Cult. Even though he had collaborated with the Sword Emperor and the Blade King to thwart them, the encounter left them not unharmed. Not fully comprehending the extent of their power, he harbored a fear of succumbing and entrusting the world into the hands of those individuals. Jinshan learned that Tianzhu also had a lawless world akin to Murim. However, he couldn't fathom who those individuals were that caused such severe injuries to his ancestor. This brought back memories of what the Sword Empress had discussed, sparking Jinshan's curiosity about the events unfolding in that distant place. After engaging in a life-or-death battle with those adversaries, Liu Zhengfeng gained enlightenment and successfully perfected the annihilating spear technique. However, with those individuals persistently monitoring him, he feared that passing down this martial art to his descendants would bring trouble to their family. The potential crisis loomed large, and Liu Zhengfeng, the spear demon, advised his descendant, the recipient of this secret manual, expressing hope that his strategic arrangement for the family's survival would prove immensely beneficial. Jinshan, addressing their ancestor, acknowledged that their family was indeed facing a crisis. However, he pondered the future when he would be too old to learn a new martial art, especially now that he could only use one arm due to his inability to wield the spear properly. As he contemplated his predicament, Seol arrived, calling out to her grandpa. She approached rapidly, carrying the bamboo spear that Jinshan had crafted for her. Observing how she cherished it and carried it around all day, Jinshan had a realization. The last secret manual left behind by their ancestor was meant for Seol. After finishing their meal, Seol felt pleasantly full. Jinshan, wanting to aid her digestion, suggested they have some fun. He handed Seol the bamboo spear and instructed her to follow him. Jinshan considered that as they were now training seriously, he might need to be a bit strict with Seol. He believed that one day she would comprehend that everything he did was for her well-being. Meanwhile, Seol observed as Jinshan practiced spearmanship, prompting him to suggest that she try imitating his movements. Jinshan intended to use only the reed he held to block her attacks. To his surprise, Seol unexpectedly began to attack him even though he wasn't prepared. Jinshan was taken aback by Seol's attack power. He had to use his inner chi to block it, but his hand shook from the force. Seol persistently continued her attacks on Jinshan, prompting him to advise her to slow down a bit. Jinshan also observed that Seol was gradually increasing her speed, displaying a determination to win against the old man. Enjoying the training immensely, Seol leapt so high that the concerned Jinshan attempted to catch her. However, Seol jumped once more. Jinshan was astonished and speculated that it was the Wudang sect's cloud-stepping technique. He couldn't believe that she was already employing the movement technique taught by Yun Li, a testament to her dazzling and brilliant talent. Believing that the little brat was playing with him, Jinshan attempted to teach Seol a lesson by attempting to catch her. To his surprise, it turned out to be only an afterimage. Failing to catch Seol, Jinshan eventually surrendered and leaned on the ground. He playfully told Seol that it was so tiring that he felt like he was going to die. Advising Seol to live well on her own from now on, Jinshan then pretended to act dead. In response, Seol slapped his face, but Jinshan kept his eyes closed. Worried, Seol shouted, "Don't die, Grappa." Despite Seol having reached the unrestrained realm, Jinshan recognized that she was still a child. Concerned about her potential for strength surpassing his own, he thought that uncontrolled power could be like a weapon that hurts oneself. Jinshan believed it was crucial to guide Seol in training the Liu family's martial arts, emphasizing harmony to cultivate not only her physical strength but also her emotions and mind. Upon reflection, Jinshan told Seol that if she listened to him carefully, he might not die. He asked Seol if she would follow his instructions from now on, to which she responded with a resounding yes. With that, Jinshan playfully acted as if he had come back to life, and they began engaging in various games. Subsequently, they spent their days training together. Seol's talent started to shine brighter and brighter with each passing day. In the long history of Muram, Jinshan wondered if there had ever been another child like Seol, one and only. These words perfectly described her. Due to her immortal echoing physique, there was no obstruction in the flow of her chi. Seol was a superhuman who had reached the unrestrained realm, a level that even transcendent martial masters couldn't dream of. Since starting her training, she had taken to martial arts effortlessly, progressing at an unbelievable rate. Jinshan couldn't believe that Seol could make such a huge rock tremble. As they prepared to conclude their training and head for a meal, Jinshan was surprised to witness the enormous rock shatter with a single strike from Seol's heaven and earth palm. Additionally, he noticed someone below, and it was too late to avoid the falling debris. To Jinshan's astonishment, Seol halted the descending rock and controlled it using telekinesis. He wondered when and how Seol had learned such a skill. Seol then called her big sister Yun Li to come over and inquired about what she had brought. Yun Li then inquired of grandfather Jinshan about the commotion just now, jokingly mentioning that she almost became beef jerky along with the meat she brought. When questioned about the investigation, Yun Li informed Jinshan that she had compiled a list of all the forces within a 50-kilometer radius. Upon inspecting the notes, Jinshan was amazed at how the size, characteristics, and weaknesses of each force were meticulously organized in detail. Yun Li advised Jinshan that the further he flipped through the pages, the more powerful forces he would encounter, making it increasingly challenging to rob them. She suggested that it would be best to target some of the less formidable ones from the front pages. She then informed Jinshan that he was already looking at the last page. Heavenly Dragon Merchant Association. These are the bastards who suck the blood of the common people through loan sharking and human trafficking, including women, children, and the elderly. Jinshan wondered how they were able to do these things. Yun Li clarified that the Heavenly Dragon Merchant Association not only paid a significant amount of money to bribe government officials but also had the support of orthodox martial sects. This support granted them absolute authority in their area. Understanding the depth of their influence, Jinshan thought that, if that's the case, it was all the more reason not to let them go unpunished. Consequently, Jinshan made the decision that they would rob the Heavenly Dragon Merchant Association. And here concludes the latest chapter of our story. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated for the next chapters. Thank you so much for watching. Chapters 19 to 26. In Shanyang County, a son informed his father that they needed to stop because even the store in front of them had closed down. However, the father refused to give in to their plight. The son explained that the longer they persisted, the greater their debt would become. Additionally, the nefarious members of the Heavenly Dragon Merchant Association were also deterring their customers from entering. Enraged, the father snatched the broomstick from his son, intending to confront the individuals, but his son intervened, cautioning that such action would endanger them all. As they glanced outside, they spotted a guest approaching and inquired whether the inn was open. Upon admitting Jinshan and Seol, the owner queried how they had arrived. Jinshan replied that they had walked and inquired as to why the owner was asking. In turn, the owner questioned about the individuals outside blocking the door. Jinshan explained that they appeared exhausted, so he allowed them to rest for a while. Following this, Jinshan asked if they were taking orders, prompting the owner to inquire about their preferences. A few moments later, Jinshan was surprised when the owner served them multiple dishes, despite Jinshan having only requested a bowl of chicken porridge. The owner reassured Jinshan that there was no need to pay and encouraged them to enjoy the meal to their heart's content. Given that it had been a long time since they had customers, he expressed gratitude for Jinshan and Seol's patronage. Jinshan recognized the truth in his words. As they explored the town, it became apparent that the Heavenly Dragon Merchant Association exerted control over the entire area, and everyone seemed to be experiencing hardship. Meanwhile, a newcomer approached and demanded to know who had permitted the inn to accept customers. He further inquired about the identity of the individual who had dared to confront the troublemakers at the entrance. When the owner intervened to inquire about the situation, the newcomer kicked him in the knee. Jinshan, still eating, remarked that despite his focus on the meal, he could hear the sound of a rabid dog barking nearby. At this, the owner's son cautioned Jinshan to be wary, revealing that the newcomer was none other than Plum Blossom, a renowned martial artist affiliated with the Heavenly Dragon Merchant Association. Incensed by the derogatory remark, Plum Blossom became enraged and grabbed a piece of plate, hurling it towards Jinshan. However, to their astonishment, the plate halted in midair, suspended by Seol's telekinetic ability. Seol remarked that it would be a shame to see it break. Jinshan, unfazed, approached Plum Blossom slowly, prompting him to wonder if Jinshan was some kind of formidable elder from a disbanded demonic sect, a retired martial master. Plum Blossom suddenly bowed down, acknowledging his grave error and seeking forgiveness. However, Jinshan insisted that he must learn to show respect for his elders through action, and began to slap Plum Blossom as a form of reprimand. Jinshan warned him that should they cross paths again, Plum Blossom would beg for mercy before Jinshan would even consider finishing him off. After dealing with Plum Blossom, Jinshan pondered about the well-being of the Black Mountain Blade Group, wondering how they were faring. On the other side, a member of the Heavenly Dragon Merchant Association seized a girl by her hair, threatening her that if she couldn't repay her debt, she should offer her body instead. Despite witnessing the injustice, bystanders refrained from intervening out of fear of becoming targets themselves. Moments later, the girl's father arrived, only to be met with a punch to the face, leaving him sprawled on the ground. As bystanders questioned why no one was willing to confront the perpetrators, a group of individuals clad in the uniform of the Taoists of the Wudang sect, members of the Black Mountain Blade, arrived on the scene. Yun Li stepped forward and warned the assailant that unless he released the girl immediately, he would lose a hand. The assailant scoffed, claiming they were merely collecting a debt. Yun Li retorted that their actions constituted kidnapping. Unfazed, the assailant boasted of their backing, but before he could finish, Yun Li swiftly severed his hand, fulfilling her earlier warning. She reminded him of her ultimatum. Peng Ho intervened, halting Yun Li and cautioning the gangsters that if they did not depart immediately, their fate would be dire. Startled, the gangsters promptly fled the scene. Afterward, Peng Ho and Yun Li resolved to confront another location where the same group of individuals were extorting innocent people. These criminals had been coercing numerous merchant ships that docked in the area to pay a fee, purportedly for assisting with loading and unloading goods. However, in reality, they provided no such services. Moreover, a portion of the extorted money was offered as bribes to government officials, shielding the criminals from legal repercussions and allowing them to establish a stronghold in the area. However, recent developments threatened their impunity. The significant flow of money from these illicit activities led to one particular destination: the Manhwa sect, one of the 9 prestigious sects of the One Union, and a cornerstone of the Murim alliance. Moments later, a contingent from the Manhwa sect arrived, revealing that the leader of the Heavenly Dragon Merchant Association was their outer disciple, indicating that the area fell under the jurisdiction of the Manhwa sect. In response, the leader grew infuriated and demanded an explanation from the warriors of the Wudang sect regarding their actions. Peng Ho, unperturbed, retorted by asking if the leader was questioning their motives. Yun Li recalled her earlier advice, emphasizing the importance of adopting a dignified and formal demeanor akin to that of a Taoist in order to perfect their disguises. Peng Ho assured her that they were indeed confident in that aspect. However, in the end, they found themselves unable to fully adhere to this advice, admitting that they simply announced their intentions to beat up the scoundrels. A few days earlier, Jinshan, Yun Li, and Peng Ho convened a meeting to discuss the formidable forces of the Heavenly Dragon Merchant Association. The general manager, Yang Chung, surpassed the capabilities of your average peak real martial master. Under his command were 4 first-rate martial artists. Jinshan was aware that their leader was an outer disciple of the Manhwa sect. Yun Li elaborated that due to the substantial expenses associated with maintaining a large sect, they sometimes admitted individuals of questionable character as outer disciples, as long as they could afford it. Peng Ho became incensed, questioning how those who incessantly preach about righteousness could engage in such nefarious activities. However, Jinshan viewed the situation differently. To him, it was preferable that the main figures of the Murim alliance were implicated. The mere mention of their names infuriated him, leading him to declare that there was no need for further contemplation. Jinshan asserted that whether it was the Heavenly Dragon or the Manhwa sect, the number of martial masters they possessed didn't matter because they weren't the ones preparing for an all-out war against them. Yun Li grasped Jinshan's implication. Following this exchange, Jinshan proposed initiating their response by drafting a letter. Back at the port, after the individual questioned the actions of the great martial artists of the Wudang sect, Peng Ho curtly responded that they were simply administering justice by dealing with the scoundrels. Peng Ho then confronted the individual, suggesting that perhaps he was colluding with the despicable extortionists. His comrades echoed his sentiment, labeling the extortionists as a disgrace to the Murim alliance and asserting that their presence tarnished the reputation of true Taoists like themselves. The guy warned Peng Ho about the potential consequences of openly provoking them. However, Peng Ho turned to the bystanders and questioned if he had said anything incorrect, prompting a tense silence. After a brief pause, Jinshan interjected, affirming Peng Ho's stance. He went further, likening those who supported the thugs to be as reprehensible as the thugs themselves, equating their actions to that of a crow feasting on a carcass. Stirred by Jinshan's words, the bystanders began to voice their agreement, condemning the individuals from the Manhwa sect as even worse than the thugs from the Heavenly Dragon. As tensions escalated, the member from the Manhwa sect grew incensed and reached for his sword. Sensing the imminent danger, Yun Li swiftly intervened, darting towards him and striking his hand to prevent the attack. She then alerted her senior brother that they were under threat, prompting Peng Ho and the other pseudo-members of the Wudang sect to retaliate against the aggressors from the Manhwa sect. Onlookers noted the discrepancy between the supposed dignity of the Wudang sect Taoists and their unexpectedly rough demeanor. However, Jinshan, positioned at the rear, questioned the relevance of such observations, emphasizing the importance of dealing with the adversaries. Following a successful skirmish, Peng Ho issued a stern warning to the defeated Manhwa sect members, cautioning that a repeat of their actions would yield similar consequences. As the faux Wudang sect group departed, the Manhwa sect member harbored thoughts of vengeance, vowing to exact retribution upon them. Arriving back at their lodgings, the bandits reverted to their original attire. Yun Li voiced her curiosity about when the adversaries would retaliate, but Jinshan remained confident that it wouldn't be long. He reasoned that they were likely eager to seek revenge, given the humiliation they had suffered. As night descended, members of the Manhwa sect arrived, inquiring about the presence of individuals from the Wudang sect. An informant confirmed having seen Wudang sect Taoists entering the location. Upon receiving this information, their senior brother urged them to swiftly enter and locate the Wudang sect members. Upon noticing the arrival of the Manhwa sect members, Jinshan and Yun Li initiated their plan. Moments later, the Manhwa sect members commenced their search inside the premises but found only an old man. Despite scouring the entire area, they were unable to locate the Wudang sect Taoists. At Zhangshang village, a group of individuals from the Wudang sect gathered as they had received a letter summoning them to the location. Bewildered by the circumstances, they were alarmed to see Yun Li collapse to the ground upon their arrival. Hastening to her side, they anxiously questioned her about the situation and the whereabouts of their fellow junior brothers. Struggling to compose herself, Yun Li explained that she couldn't fully convey the details in the letter due to the urgency of its dispatch, but she confirmed the devastating news. Everyone else was dead. Tears streamed down her face as she expressed the humiliation of being the lone survivor. Suddenly, Yun Li was taken aback when she heard a voice questioning the truth of her account. She couldn't believe it when she realized that Elder Maheo had arrived in person. Doubts clouded her mind as she pondered whether she could deceive such a discerning figure. Elder Maheo pressed Yun Li for answers, demanding to know who had dared to harm the disciples of the esteemed Wudang sect. He insisted that she speak truthfully and promptly, without a hint of falsehood. Yun Li recounted the events, explaining that while they were recuperating in Shanyang County following their success against the bandits, they became embroiled in a conflict with the Heavenly Dragon Merchant Association. Those who harbored animosity towards them launched a surprise attack during the night, resulting in the deaths of her comrades. She revealed that she was the sole survivor, narrowly escaping after enduring imprisonment for an extended period. Upon hearing Yun Li's explanation, Maheo questioned her decision to send a letter instead of returning directly to their sect. In response, Yun Li clarified that upon learning of her escape, the assailants blocked and began monitoring the entrance to the village, making it impossible for her to return without risking capture or worse. Maheo, still grappling with disbelief, resolved to verify Yun Li's claims by visiting the village in question firsthand. He queried whether the Heavenly Dragon Merchant Association was the sole adversary present and expressed incredulity at the notion that Wudang sect disciples had fallen to mere third-rate opponents, especially with the presence of one of the Wudang Four Swords, the chivalrous sword, dispatched to the area. His frustration mounting, Maheo demanded immediate answers from Yun Li. Through tears, Yun Li explained that the Heavenly Dragon Merchant Association was indeed backed by the Manhwa sect. Maheo was taken aback by this revelation. Yun Li's Marshall Jr. brother supported her assertion, pointing out that the Heavenly Dragon Merchant Association served as the primary source of funding for the Manhwa sect. Receiving confirmation from Yun Li, Maheo acknowledged her sincerity and resolved to take action. They made preparations to journey to Shanyang County to investigate the situation further. Upon reaching the entrance of the village, Maheo and his fellow martial brothers were confronted with the undeniable truth. The Manhwa sect was indeed guarding the entrance, confirming Yun Li's account. Sensing an opportunity, Yun Li attempted to draw the attention of the enemy, prompting them to move in to capture her. However, to their astonishment, Maheo and his comrades swiftly launched a preemptive attack, intending to leave only one person capable of providing information. After subduing their adversaries, they interrogated the lone survivor about the presence of Manhwa sect members in the village, to which he confirmed. Yun Li's martial brother found this confirmation to be conclusive evidence of her truthfulness. With this newfound certainty, Maheo ordered the survivor to summon the Manhwa sect members to their location. Without hesitation, the survivor complied, hastily carrying out Maheo's command. In a tense confrontation, the group from the Manhwa sect approached Elder Maheo of the Wudang sect without offering any greetings, which irked one of Maheo's comrades. The young master from the Manhwa sect expressed their frustration, claiming they could no longer tolerate the situation. Maheo, in turn, grew enraged, admonishing them for their audacity despite his attempts to show mercy and hear their grievances. The young master, consumed by anger, demanded an end to the disrespectful language directed towards them. In response, Maheo delivered a resounding slap across the young master's face. Incensed, the young master seized Maheo's hand, further infuriating him. Maheo issued a stern warning, threatening dire consequences if the young master did not release his grip immediately. Reluctantly, the young master complied, slowly releasing Maheo's hand before departing with their group. Maheo decided to let them go and instead resolved to visit the Manhwa sect to meet with the sect master himself, intending to address the escalating tensions directly. Back at their base, the disciples of the Manhwa sect lamented the missed opportunity, believing that they could have easily overwhelmed their adversaries if Elder Maheo had not intervened. Frustrated and determined not to let the matter rest, they rallied all the martial artists affiliated with the Heavenly Dragon Merchant Association, confident that even an elder like Maheo would be unable to contend with their combined numbers. Meanwhile, Yun Li updated Jinshan on the situation, revealing that all the members of the Wudang sect were lodging at their inn. While Jinshan's plan seemed to be proceeding smoothly, Yun Li expressed concern over Elder Maheo's intention to visit the Manhwa sect the following day and meet with their sect master in person. She emphasized the risk of their deceitful actions being exposed should this meeting occur. Jinshan explained to Yun Li that given their manipulation of both the Wudang sect and Manhwa sect, they couldn't afford to wait until tomorrow. He anticipated that the conflict would ignite that very night, as they observed the disciples of the Manhwa sect and the martial artists of the Heavenly Dragon Merchant Association assembling together. Upon reaching the inn where the Wudang sect members were lodged, the combined forces of the Manhwa sect and the Heavenly Dragon commenced their assault. From the vantage point of a window, Elder Maheo declared his readiness to eliminate their adversaries. Jinshan, however, remained indifferent to the outcome of the clash. What mattered to them was reclaiming the immense wealth amassed by the Heavenly Dragon Merchant Association, acquired through the exploitation of the poor and vulnerable. Jinshan proclaimed a new course of action, declaring that henceforth, in the name of the righteous outlaws of the Black Mountain, they would systematically plunder the opulent manor of the Heavenly Dragon Merchant Association, stripping it clean of ill-gotten gains. With only 15 minutes to spare before the news of the attack on the Heavenly Dragon Merchant Association headquarters reached the opulent inn and exposed their ruse, Yun Li suggested that Jinshan stay behind to watch over Seol, as they couldn't leave her alone. While Peng Ho's group set out to swiftly clear out the empty manor, they expressed concern about Jinshan's involvement in such dangerous activities. Jinshan agreed to stay behind but emphasized the importance of withdrawing after the allotted time had elapsed. However, as the minutes ticked by, Jinshan grew anxious when the group failed to return. Suddenly, Seol spoke up, revealing that her sister, Yun Li, had been injured. In the midst of their encounter with the Heavenly Dragon Merchant Association's Peak Realm Martial Master, Yun Li and Peng Ho's group found themselves outmatched by his speed. Peng Ho realized that they couldn't evade his attacks, but just as the situation seemed dire, Jinshan arrived and intervened, halting Yang Chong's assault. Jinshan swiftly instructed everyone to retreat, reminding them of their primary objective, and they followed his lead, leaving the confrontation behind. Yang Chong detected something amiss when he noticed Jinshan's inability to use his left arm and capitalized on this weakness, relentlessly targeting Jinshan's vulnerable spot. Despite Yun Li's injury, Peng Ho decided to aid Jinshan in the fight, determined to risk his life to assist his comrade. As the battle intensified, Jinshan realized that he had no choice but to resort to his ultimate move to end the confrontation. However, before he could execute it, he sensed someone approaching and turned to look behind him. Seol, Jinshan's granddaughter, had rushed onto the scene, disregarding his warnings to stay away. Yang Chong, astonished by Seol's remarkable speed without the use of martial arts, contemplated taking her as a hostage. Despite Jinshan's orders for Peng Ho to retrieve Seol, she proved too swift to be caught. Yang Chong, caught off guard by Seol's agility, managed to seize her and threatened to harm her if Jinshan approached any closer. As Yang Chong demanded the return of the stolen gold, threatening to harm Seol if his demands were not met, a worried Peng Ho agreed to comply and retrieve the gold immediately. However, as Yang Chong held Seol hostage, he was taken aback by her unexpected strength, which required him to exert more inner chi to restrain her. Warning Seol to stay still or face dire consequences, he was surprised when she defiantly cried out that she didn't want to comply. Seol then struck Yang Chong's arm with a powerful slap, generating a shockwave that caused him to lose his grip on her. As Seol fell from his grasp, Yang Chong suddenly felt his hand being twisted forcefully, causing him immense pain. With his hand shattered and unable to utilize his enhanced chi for protection, Yang Chong was astonished to find himself incapacitated by a mere child. Fearing the worsening of his internal injuries, he contemplated disposing of Seol before launching an attack, only to find himself grabbed by Jinshan, who attempted to strike him with a spear. However, Yang Chong managed to evade Jinshan's attack by escaping his grasp and leaping into the air to launch a counterattack. Yet, Jinshan denied him any opportunity for retaliation, employing a devastating special technique that crushed every bone in Yang Chong's body and set his internal organs ablaze. As Yang Chong writhed in excruciating pain, he pleaded with Jinshan to end his suffering. However, Jinshan refused, instead urging Yang Chong to reflect on the suffering caused by his greed. Jinshan reassured Yang Chong that there was no shame in defeat, especially against an opponent destined to become supreme. As they continued their journey, Jinshan reflected on Seol's actions. Though her gesture may have appeared clumsy at first glance, Jinshan recognized it as their family's Liu family Heaven-Earth Palm's first movement, known as traceless destruction. He marveled at Seol's ability to already apply their family's martial arts techniques, realizing the depth of her potential and the legacy she carried within her. At the port, the group of bandits prepared to set sail, awaiting Jinshan's return as he mentioned needing to retrieve something. Moments later, they spotted Jinshan being pursued by remnants of the Heavenly Dragon Merchant Association. Despite the urge to assist him, Peng Ho intervened, instructing the group to hold their ground. Jinshan instructed them to proceed with setting sail immediately as he dealt with the pursuers. With the bandits hoisting the sails and accelerating their departure, the enemies assumed they were abandoning Jinshan. prompting them to unleash a barrage of arrows. However, to their surprise, Jinshan leapt into the water and utilized the duckweed water-crossing step technique, swiftly evading the projectiles. As the enemies continued their onslaught, Seol employed her telekinetic abilities to deflect the arrows, ensuring Jinshan's safe arrival on the boat. The bandits marveled at their remarkable display, while their adversaries could only watch helplessly as they slowly sailed out of reach. Inside the boat, Peng Ho expressed disbelief at the immense wealth amassed by the Heavenly Dragon Merchant Association through exploitation of the common people. Jinshan revealed that he had obtained the secret ledger from them, discovering widespread corruption among officials who had accepted bribes from the association. Peng Ho realized that this was Jinshan's primary objective upon returning. Jinshan assured Peng Ho that he had a plan to clandestinely deliver the ledger to the royal secret inspector once they reached shore. When asked about his own share, Jinshan insisted on taking only what he needed to provide for Seol, emphasizing that as an old man, he required little wealth. He explained his intention to depart, seeking safety and anonymity for himself and Seol. Jinshan cautioned Peng Ho to remain vigilant, as both officials and members of the Murim Alliance would likely be hunting for them. As Jinshan bid farewell and prepared to depart, emotions ran high, with everyone expressing sorrow akin to mourning before an ancestral rite table. Following Jinshan's advice, Peng Ho and his group resolved to relocate far away to Henan. Peng Ho pledged to Jinshan that they would return to express their gratitude and repay him for his assistance. With that, Jinshan and Seol embarked on a small boat, leaving behind their former companions as they embarked on a new journey together. In Hu County, a haven for members of the unorthodox faction of the Murim Alliance, where orthodox sect members are unwelcome, a conversation unfolded between a man and his superior. The man relayed news of his boss's triumphant lesson to the orthodox sect members, leaving them battered and bruised. As they contemplated grabbing a drink, they passed by Jinshan, whom they didn't recognize as a local resident. Meanwhile, Jinshan and Seol stumbled upon a meat shop and purchased some chicken meat for Seol to enjoy. While observing Seol relish her meal, Jinshan couldn't help but notice the ill-mannered conversations of the people around them. Despite his reservations about exposing Seol to the rough environment of the unorthodox faction, they had no choice but to seek refuge here to evade the vigilant gaze of the Murim Alliance. Although it seemed like a risky decision, Jinshan hoped that the authority of the unorthodox syndicate in the region would mitigate the dangers they faced. On the opposite side of the table, a man named Wei Wugong celebrated his victory in arm wrestling, reveling in the thrill of his triumph. As he searched for another challenger, Jinshan observed the considerable sum of money placed on the table and pondered if this was some form of wager. With no one stepping up to Wei Wugong's challenge, he moved to collect the money, only to be interrupted by a newcomer eager to compete. Jinshan noted the newcomer's unconventional aura and speculated whether he was masking his strength, possibly fueled by alcohol. Jinshan couldn't shake the feeling that this individual possessed considerable power. Wei Wugong identified the newcomer as Baek Gyu and questioned his interest in engaging in what he deemed as mere child's play. Baek countered, asserting that using just one finger would suffice, and offered to pay tenfold if he lost. Intrigued by the challenge, Wei accepted, confident in his arm wrestling skills despite Baek's renowned martial prowess. As the match commenced, Wei believed that by harnessing his inner and outer chi simultaneously, he could secure victory. However, his confidence waned as Baek effortlessly defeated him, using only one finger, leaving Wei's arm shattered in defeat. As the new victor, Baek claimed ownership of the money on the table and invited challengers to vie for it. Despite the surrounding murmurs acknowledging his dominance as a sect leader and the fear of facing his true strength, Baek dismissed their concerns. Instead, he identified Jinshan as his potential opponent, noting Jinshan's presence at the nearby table. Approaching Jinshan's table with deliberate steps, Baek called out Jinshan, urging him to cease pretending ignorance and accept the challenge to arm wrestle. Jinshan, however, maintained his facade of being a mere old man, questioning Baek's motives for the confrontation. In response, Baek assured Jinshan that he saw through his facade, recognizing that Jinshan was no ordinary elderly individual. Jinshan realized that his attempt to find refuge from the Murim Alliance's scrutiny had led him into an unexpected confrontation. Refusing Baek's challenge seemed unwise, considering the potential consequences. He instructed Seol to remain with the chicken momentarily and agreed to face Baek's challenge, hoping to negotiate their safe departure if he emerged victorious. Baek agreed to the terms, promising Jinshan whatever he desired if he won, even if it meant forfeiting his own head. Onlookers expressed skepticism about Jinshan's suitability as Beck's opponent due to his age. However, they also noticed Jinshan's voluminous hair and warned one another to tread carefully. Making jests about hair in Baek Gyu's presence, even in jest, could result in severe consequences, including the loss of one's head. Jinshan had been diligently honing his body and strength, which emboldened him to accept the challenge. Spectators were astonished to witness Jinshan pushing Baek, a formidable sect leader, to the brink, until Jinshan began to falter. Despite possessing nearly 180 years' worth of inner chi, Jinshan found himself outmatched, suspecting Baek to be at least in the transcendent realm, if not stronger. As the intense arm wrestling match neared its conclusion, spectators feared for Jinshan's arm, anticipating its imminent fracture. However, a surprising interruption occurred when Seol approached Baek and began to playfully rub his smooth head, commenting on its texture. Despite their unspoken agreement to maintain their composure, Seol's innocent inquiry about Baek's lack of hair unnerved those nearby. Undeterred, Seol persisted, questioning Baek about his hair growth. Baek tersely instructed Seol to step down, but she persisted, using her telekinetic abilities to offer Baek a piece of chicken meat. Cheerfully, she encouraged him to consume it, believing it would hasten his hair growth. As Jinshan seized the opportunity to claim victory over Baek, the spectators were astounded by the unexpected turn of events. Baek's chi dispersing due to Seol's interaction left them in disbelief. Seol's innocent gesture of offering Baek chicken meat continued even as he lay on the ground, further emphasizing her unique presence in the confrontation. However, Baek's sudden outburst startled everyone, prompting Jinshan to swiftly remove Seol from harm's way. Baek's impassioned proclamation referenced a recent incident in Shanyang County involving the conflict between the Manhwa sect and Wudang sect. To Jinshan's surprise, Baek identified him as the individual responsible for the destruction of both sects during that event. The revelation caused a stir among the onlookers, who had heard of the notorious incident. Baek, now addressing Jinshan as Great Warrior, expressed remorse for his previous rudeness and acknowledged Jinshan's remarkable abilities. He confessed to recognizing Jinshan and intentionally testing his prowess. Baek bestowed upon Jinshan the title of hero within the unorthodox sects, a designation Jinshan had not heard in decades and never expected to hear again, especially from members of the unorthodox faction. In a gesture of camaraderie, Baek graciously declared that he would cover all expenses for their gathering. Addressing Jinshan respectfully as Big Brother, Baek poured him a cup and expressed relief that Jinshan had not sought his head as payment for their arm wrestling match. Acknowledging the danger posed by the pursuing Murim alliance, Jinshan humbly requested refuge in Hu County for a brief period. Baek reassured Jinshan that there was no need to worry, as the treaty with the unorthodox faction prevented the Murim alliance from entering Hu County. However, Baek hinted at a personal matter that required his attention. Speculation arose among the onlookers regarding the earlier display of telekinesis, with many assuming it was Jinshan's doing. However, Baek sensed that the true source of the phenomenon was Seol. Despite Jinshan's doubts about the other's willingness to believe, he encouraged Baek to test Seol's abilities by touching her hand. Baek's confirmation that Seol possessed power in the unrestrained realm left those present in awe of the child's remarkable abilities. Jinshan listened intently as Baek expressed disbelief at the whirlwind of events Jinshan had experienced in such a short time. Baek recounted rumors he had heard for years about the disappearance of children with special constitutions, and more recently, the mysterious annihilation of the Fu family, with only the baby's body missing. Following their conversation, Baek reassured Jinshan that he need not worry about the Murim alliance any longer, as he was welcome to find refuge within their sect from now on. Jinshan was taken aback by the size and scope of Baek's sect, realizing it was larger than he had anticipated. Baek explained that he had inherited leadership of the sect from his father, Baek Woonhyun. When Jinshan recognized the name as that of the Extreme Bloodblade, Baek confirmed his father's infamous reputation. However, he noted that he disliked the moniker, Ghost Head Sect Leader, and had chosen to change it. Upon reaching their destination, Baek introduced Jinshan to the members of his sect. Jinshan observed their distinctiveness, particularly noting the absence of hair on everyone's heads. Puzzled, he inquired about this peculiar feature. Baek clarified that it was a consequence of their sect's dominant cultivation technique, the ghost head art. In exchange for strength, practitioners of the ghost head art forfeit their hair. Baek mentioned their tradition of imparting their art to honored guests, but upon hearing this, Jinshan abruptly departed, expressing gratitude for the hospitality. Upon reaching the entrance, a girl suddenly appeared and explained that she had rushed to the location upon hearing news of an important guest's arrival. Jinshan surmised that she must be the sect leader's wife and proceeded to introduce himself. The girl confirmed Jinshan's assumption, introducing herself as Ming Lianhua. She mentioned that upon learning of the important guest's arrival, she had tidied up the place. Ming Lianhua then directed Jinshan to proceed to the annex first. Beck, attempting to lead Jinshan, was interrupted by his wife, who suggested they should discuss family matters first. Arriving at the annex, Jinshan marveled at the luxurious accommodations provided to them, feeling as though he were in a dream. Nevertheless, he couldn't afford to rest, knowing he had to press forward. Here, he planned to instruct Seol in the art of the annihilating wind spear. Every day, regardless of the weather, Jinshan diligently trained Seol. However, one day, Beck arrived with sect members, seeking out Jinshan. With a grave expression, he informed Jinshan that Hu County was about to become a battlefield from that moment forward. Beck informed Jinshan that the Viper Blood sect had attacked their children in Tongchuan, and they were preparing to retaliate by eliminating them. Jinshan questioned whether it would be acceptable for him not to assist. Beck replied that Jinshan's assistance would indeed be valuable, but he also advised Jinshan to prioritize their safety and take care of Seol by staying put. Jinshan expressed gratitude for Beck's concern. Before departing, Beck suggested they have dinner together that evening. A few moments later, Ming brought some snacks for Jinshan and Seol to enjoy together. However, upon seeing them engrossed in their training without taking a break, she opted to leave the food at the door so as not to disturb them. With the sun beginning to set, Jinshan noted Beck's tardiness. Suddenly, Seol alerted his grandfather that the man with the bald head was injured. Jinshan marveled at Seol's ability to sense movement from over 300 meters away. Initially concerned that it might be Beck Gyu who was hurt, Seol clarified that it was actually the wife of the bald-headed man. Jinshan quickly decided to go check on her, but then remembered Beck's warning that Hu County was turning into a battlefield. Realizing the danger lurking in the area, he hesitated. On the other side, Ming encountered the elite Earth Killer Squad leader of the Viper Blood sect, Yang Qian-il, and sustained injuries in the encounter. Despite luring the sect leader and members to Tongchuan, Yang Qian-il resorted to cowardly tactics by attacking the deserted sect. Despite her weakened state, Ming refused to surrender and fiercely fought back with all her might. Enraged, Yang Qian-il leapt forward to strike her, and as Ming attempted to retrieve her spear, the wounded enemy prevented her from doing so. Despite managing to pull out the spear, it was too late. Yang Qian thought he had Ming cornered, but to his surprise, another blade intercepted his attack, granting Ming the opportunity to retaliate and cut Yang Qian's mouth. Jinshan assured Ming that he would stall for time until Brother Beck returned and urged her to take cover behind him. However, Ming hesitated, reluctant to retreat, knowing that their adversaries were all first-rate warriors or even stronger. Jinshan acknowledged her concern, realizing he couldn't face them all alone. Yet, he couldn't bear to abandon these people to their fate, much like the family members of their Liu family. Yang Qian, infuriated, commanded his squad to execute the Viper Blood formation. Jinshan, recalling his earlier conversation with Seol, reminded her of what he had instructed her to do if he ever did something wrong. Seol responded that she would hit him. Jinshan then instructed Seol that the men in the red clothes had committed many wrongdoings, and from that moment on, she was to strike those men with her stick. In exchange, Seol was to keep her eyes closed. As Yang Qian ordered his squad to attack, Seol struck him on the head with her stick, causing Yang Qian and his squad to be thrown back. The chapter concluded with Seol declaring, "Bad misters get hit." And here concludes the latest chapter of our story. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated for the next chapters. Thank you so much for watching. Jinshan got serious and leapt straight into the enemy's formation. Seol struck the enemies, while Jinshan delivered the finishing blows. The enemy leader was in disbelief that their elite warriors, who were nearly at the peak realm, were being easily defeated. He wondered if Jinshan had reached the unrestrained realm. Moments later, the enemy's second unit arrived. The enemy leader, now more confident, thought that even if the old man and the kid were in the unrestrained realm, they wouldn't be able to defeat all of them. The enemies began forming the killing sword formation, and Jinshan noticed their numbers had increased, making their formation more complex and deadly, like the fangs of a viper. The woman advised Jinshan to take Seol and run away. She believed that no matter how strong Seol was, they couldn't face that swarm of vipers while carrying his granddaughter. However, Jinshan reassured her, saying they had no intention of abandoning them and save their lives. Seol may be fine, but the concern lies with Jinshan's stamina. If he were to become exhausted from fending off the enemy's attacks, Seol would be in danger. Even if Jinshan allowed the others to flee first, there would be no way to prevent all of the enemies from pursuing them. The enemy leader declared that it didn't matter if everyone else ran away because he had changed his mind. He offered them a chance to flee. However, he expressed his belief that the child would pose the greatest threat in the future. Therefore, their Earth Killer Squad was willing to risk everything to eliminate the child before they became a significant threat. Hearing the enemy's words filled Jinshan with anger. He confronted the enemy, questioning how they dared to threaten the only blood relative he had left. Jinshan then turned to Seol and declared that they would put their training with the annihilating wind spear to the test. The enemy leader ordered his men to attack Jinshan and Seol, but they were swiftly annihilated in an instant. Surmising that Jinshan must have expended a considerable amount of internal qi in that attack, they launched another assault, this time focusing their efforts on Jinshan. Seol, sensing the intensity of the qi even with her eyes closed, grew concerned. Though she was able to perceive qi, she was not accustomed to real combat yet. Jinshan feared that if Seol became preoccupied with worrying about Jinshan, she might leave herself vulnerable to attack. At this rate, they would be overwhelmed by the enemy's relentless assault. With no other choice, Jinshan decided to have Seol open her eyes. As Seol complied, she was immediately blinded by shining lights emanating from the sky. The lights descended to the ground like rays of light, revealing themselves to be ghost heads. The enemy, caught off guard by their swift return, speculated that there must have been another elite unit lying in ambush. Meanwhile, Baek-gyu, the leader of the dominating sect, made his presence known. He ordered his comrades to assist the injured while the enemy gets into formation. Baek-gyu inspected the wound of his wife and demanded to know who had injured her, causing the enemy to tremble in fear. He vowed that whoever the culprit was, he would make sure to exact a slow and painful revenge. As the enemies began to question each other about the attacker, Seol suddenly pointed out the individual responsible. Seol pointed out the enemy leader as the culprit. While she did so, Jinshan couldn't help but wonder if the accusation was accurate. The leader questioned Seol's claim, pointing out that she wasn't even present at the time of the attack. However, before he could react further, Baek-gyu launched an attack against him. 3 of the enemies moved to block Baek-gyu's assault, but they were all easily thrown aside. With unbridled fury, Baek-gyu continued his relentless assault, declaring that anyone who dared to attack his family and sect members would be cut in 2 by his own hands. In a fit of rage, he warned all of them to consider themselves already dead. Baek-gyu and his team charged toward the enemies, leaving Jinshan feeling amazed as he watched them in action. It dawned on him why the enemy had sought to lure Baek-gyu and the sect members away. They understood that facing them head-on would have resulted in significant losses on their part. There's no need to expose Seol to such a horrific scene. She must be exhausted from expending all her energy again. Baek-gyu's wife approached Jinshan and thanked him for protecting the dominating sect. She expressed her gratitude, promising to remember this favor for the rest of her life. Jinshan humbly replied that he was merely repaying her kindness for taking care of him and his granddaughter when they had nowhere else to turn. He advised Baek-gyu's wife to tend to her injury promptly before taking his leave to rest. After waking up in the middle of the night, with Seol eating nearby, Baek-gyu expressed his gratitude to Jinshan as they shared a drink together. He admitted that he didn't know how he could ever repay them. Jinshan modestly replied that they were simply doing what they could to contribute, so there was no need for Baek-gyu to worry about repayment. However, Baek-gyu insisted that it was all thanks to Jinshan and Seol. Jinshan then inquired about Baek-gyu's wife's injury. Baek-gyu reassured him that it was nothing serious, expressing his relief that both his wife and the child were unharmed. Jinshan then inquired about Baek-gyu's plans going forward. Fuming with anger, Baek-gyu declared that as soon as they finished treating the wounded, they would rush to the Viper blood sect and twist their damned leader's head off. Jinshan cautioned him to be careful, pointing out that the reason the enemy had drawn their swords first was likely because they hadn't even considered the possibility of failure. He surmised that they might have prepared another underhanded move. For example, they could have used those Earth Killer Squad members as bait. Jinshan speculated that they might have laid a trap for Baek-gyu, knowing his fiery temper would lead him to attack without hesitation. Baek Gyu found it difficult to believe that the enemy would use their own subordinates as scapegoats, but Jinshan, drawing from his experience in Zhonghu, explained that there were many who would resort to such tactics. Moreover, with the Viper 4 sect now controlling the Dark Dragon group, their forces had more than doubled. However, Baek Gyu remained undeterred, stating that for him, fighting wasn't about numbers. Jinshan scolded Baek Gyu, calling him a dumbass, and questioned his reckless behavior. Meanwhile, Seol listened and watched as Jinshan and Baek Gyu quarreled while eating. Jinshan began to feel unwell, fearing he might fall into a state of qi deviation if they continued arguing. Concerned, Baek Gyu asked if there was another solution. Jinshan suggested considering another force in Hu County. Baek Gyu thought of the Heaven-Reaching Alliance but doubted they would help given their strained relationship. Jinshan then suggested to Baek Gyu that it would be more beneficial to have the Heaven-Reaching Alliance join forces with them rather than with the Viper Blood sect. He explained that while Baek Gyu may not like them, he needed to persuade them to be on their side. Jinshan warned that if Baek Gyu made a mistake and ended up having a falling out with them, they might end up joining the Viper Blood sect instead. Baek Gyu responded confidently that Jinshan didn't need to worry about it, leading Jinshan to believe that Baek Gyu finally understood his point. However, Baek Gyu suddenly declared that if they didn't cooperate, he would turn them into a sea of fire. Upon hearing this, Jinshan fell from his chair in shock, realizing that Baek Gyu had completely misunderstood him. At the Heaven-Reaching Alliance's base, the guards discussed rumors they had heard about their organization potentially joining forces with the Viper Blood sect. Despite their dislike for the Viper Blood sect, they acknowledged that they were the strongest faction and deemed it advantageous to align with power. One of the guards remarked that they didn't want to risk being entangled in a conflict against those bald-headed bastards. As they conversed, they were startled to suddenly see Baek Gyu, the leader of the dominating sect, standing beside them. Baek Gyu recalled Jinshan's advice to refrain from killing anyone, regardless of the situation. When the guards questioned his presence, Baek Gyu explained that they had come to persuade the Heaven-Reaching Alliance and needed to meet with their leader. Jinshan instructed the guards to step aside, but they questioned the old man's audacity and threatened him with death. Suddenly, the gate of the door was shattered, and the two guards were thrown aside. Baek Gyu was astonished by Jinshan's actions, while the guards reacted as if they were in pain. Jinshan, however, admonished them to stop overreacting. With questions swirling in his mind, Baek Gyu followed Jinshan. One of their men rushed to inform their elder, Yu Yi, about the trouble. When questioned about the commotion so early in the morning, the informant revealed that the dominating sect had arrived. Yu Yi inquired about their numbers and whether they had brought all their elite members. The informant reported that only the dominating sect leader, Baek Gyu, and one old man carrying a child were present. Upon hearing this, Yu Yi immediately summoned everyone and ordered them to head to the manor. Upon seeing Baek Gyu, Yu Yi questioned him about the commotion he had caused in someone else's manor. Baek Gyu explained that he had come to talk with the Heaven-Reaching Alliance. However, Yu Yi dismissed this as nonsense, pointing out that Baek Gyu claimed to have come to talk but had beaten up his subordinates instead. Baek Gyu turned to Jinshan, asking about the advice he had given him to hold back and persuade them. Jinshan clarified that he had instructed Baek Gyu not to kill anyone, but he hadn't said anything about refraining from using force. He advised Baek Gyu to observe carefully as he would persuade them. Jinshan reiterated Baek Gyu's statement that they had come to talk. Yu Yi responded by saying they would hear them out. Jinshan then adjusted his hat and lifted his head, declaring that their dominating sect would be taking over the place. This statement shocked both Baek Gyu and Yu Yi. After Jinshan announced their intention, one of the men from the Heaven-Reaching Alliance attempted to attack him, assuming he was just a rude old man. However, the attacker was suddenly immobilized by telekinesis. Unbeknownst to everyone, it was Seol who was controlling him from behind Jinshan's back. Jinshan then commanded Seol to quickly bring the man to the ground. Yu Yi thought it was some sort of evil art and instructed his men not to be deceived and to attack together. As they tried to approach and attack Jinshan, their swords suddenly ignited with fire, causing everyone to drop them in alarm. Realizing that from telekinesis to samadhi true fire, these abilities were not evil arts, Yu Yi began to wonder if this meant Jinshan's inner chi had reached the divine level. Jinshan warned them that he would let them off this once, but if they came at him again, they should be prepared to have their souls burned. He then turned to Baek Gyu, asking if he had seen what just transpired. By demonstrating the overwhelming difference in their powers, they could make the heaven-reaching alliance submit without having to kill anyone. Jinshan explained that this is what persuasion means in Zhonghu. Jinshan then called out to the person hiding nearby, asking if he wasn't going to come out immediately. Everyone was surprised that Jinshan had detected the exact location of the heaven-reaching alliance leader, who had been concealing his presence. This further convinced them that Jinshan was indeed in the unrestrained realm. Baek Gyu addressed Jinshan as his father-in-law and informed him that the person who had revealed himself was the heaven-reaching alliance leader, Zhang Liang. Yu Yi then told Zhang Liang that Jinshan was undoubtedly a master from a past era, which explained why he didn't share the bald appearance of the Baek family members. They speculated that Jinshan seemed like a demonic head from a previous era. Moments later, Jinshan grabbed Zhang Liang's shoulder and asked if he was planning to join hands with the vile Viper Blood sect or work with the dominating sect. Baek Gyu advised Zhang Liang to decide quickly while his father-in-law was still showing generosity. Realizing the situation, Zhang Liang responded that from now on, the heaven-reaching alliance would join hands with the dominating sect. He added that the dominating sect's enemies would now be their enemies as well. Hearing Zhang Liang's statement made Baek Gyu happy, and he exclaimed that he had always wanted them to be brothers. He suggested that they forget everything about the past and get along. However, Jinshan interrupted, telling him to wait. Jinshan explained that in Zhonghu, friendship made only in words meant nothing. They needed to take an oath. To become family with the dominating sect, they required a corresponding sign. Jinshan clarified that there were no exceptions. He questioned if they wanted to die at the hands of an old man like him, or if they would perform the ritual and become brothers with the dominating sect. On the other side, at the Viper Blood sect, their leader Tian Shu wondered why there was no news at all. He thought that if it were Baek Gyu, he would have come right away after dealing with the Earth Killer Squad, so Tian Shu had laid a trap in anticipation. Moments later, one of his men reported that the heaven-reaching alliance, which had decided to ally with them, had instead joined hands with the dominating sect. Tian Shu, knowing that Baek Gyu and Zhang Liang weren't on good terms, quickly formulated a plan and ordered his men to prepare for departure immediately. He reasoned that Baek Gyu wasn't the type to negotiate peacefully and must have used force to suppress the heaven-reaching alliance. He also speculated that both sides must have suffered considerable damage. Moments later, a message arrived. It was sent from the spy team at the heaven-reaching alliance, reporting that many bald-headed members from the dominating sect were currently encamped and occupying the alliance's manor. Upon receiving this information, Tian Shu concluded that the dominating sect's headquarters must be empty. He ordered his men to have the Dark Dragon Group pretend to attack both the heaven-reaching alliance and the dominating sect's members who were occupying the place. After executing this diversion tactic, he planned to personally go and take over the dominating sect's headquarters. The Viper Blood sect then moved immediately under Tian Shu's command. Upon arriving at the dominating sect's base, Tian Shu ordered his men to eliminate all the remaining lower-ranked members and take Baek Gyu's relatives as hostages. However, as they opened the door and searched for Baek Gyu's family, they found nothing. They reported to Tian Shu that the manor was completely empty, which surprised him, as he expected there to be servants and guards left. Suddenly, a sword was sent flying towards him. Tian Shu managed to block it, but the sword returned to Baek Gyu's hand. Surprised to see Baek Gyu, Tian Shu wondered why he was there. Enraged, Baek Gyu asked Tian Shu how it felt to be caught in his own trap, as someone who always laid traps himself. Baek Gyu's men then emerged from hiding. Tian Shu was confused because they had believed that the bald-headed individuals were from the dominating sect taking over the heaven-reaching alliance. However, they received another message revealing that all the bald heads there were actually members of the heaven-reaching alliance who had shaved their heads. The Dark Dragon Group questioned the heaven-reaching alliance members on what they had done. In response, they explained that they had performed the ritual and joined forces with the dominating sect. Tian Shu was surprised that the heaven-reaching alliance members would take such drastic action. His original plan had been to unite the three forces and attack the dominating sect together. Tian Shu realized that if they fought one-on-one like this, the outcome would be determined by individual strength. He found it hard to believe that the idiotic Baek Gyu was the mastermind behind this plan. Tian Shu wondered if Baek Gyu had received help from an experienced strategist who had suddenly appeared out of nowhere. From a distance, Jinshan advised Seol to observe carefully, as watching the smooth-headed man fight against the adversaries would be a valuable lesson for her. Baek Gyu then told Tian Shu that they should put an end to their ill-fated relationship right there and then. Tian Shu accepted Baek Gyu's challenge, stating that fair competition wasn't his thing, but he wouldn't avoid it. Baek Gyu initiated the attack and warned Tian Shu that he was mistaken and should have avoided facing Baek Gyu with all his might. Tian Shu remarked to Baek Gyu that he was still as arrogant as ever. He advised Baek Gyu not to underestimate him, as he was no longer the same as he used to be. Baek Gyu acknowledged that Tian Shu had indeed improved significantly. He also observed that Tian Shu had become faster. Jinshan, who had initially thought Tian Shu was only skilled in using underhanded tricks, now recognized him as a rare and swift swordsman. One side moved with agility and speed, while the other displayed strength and heaviness. It was akin to witnessing a battle between a tiger and a viper, a clash of incredible skill in both inner and external arts honed over decades of practice and training. The spectators were so overwhelmed by the intensity of their chi that they dared not intervene. Making even a single wrong move could tip the delicate balance and result in their own side collapsing. Whether Baek Gyu's dual swords would be able to block those rapid attacks would determine the fate of the unorthodox sects in Hu County. Jinshan allowed Seol to watch and study the fight closely. Although Seol lacked practical experience, she would glean valuable insights simply by observing their techniques. Tian Shu laughed and asked Baek Gyu what the point was of having two strong swords if Baek Gyu couldn't even touch him. Baek Gyu sustained some minor injuries from Tian Shu's attacks, yet he persisted in attacking Tian Shu. Tian Shu exuded confidence, as he was able to effortlessly block each of Baek Gyu's attacks. Unfazed, Baek Gyu urged Tian Shu to keep blocking. Baek Gyu's attacks were easy for Tian Shu to block initially, but as he did so, he began to feel the weight and power behind Baek Gyu's strikes. Tian Shu then attempted a counterattack and challenged Baek Gyu to block it. While blocking Tian Shu's attack, Baek Gyu sustained several hits, causing him to be covered in blood. Tian Shu laughed at him mockingly. Jinshan then asked Seol whom she thought would emerge victorious. Seol replied confidently that the smooth-headed man would win. Tian Shu observed that Baek Gyu's swords had become faster. However, Jinshan disagreed, noting that Baek Gyu himself hadn't become faster. From Jinshan's perspective, although Baek Gyu appeared to be seriously injured on the surface, in reality, only his clothes or skin were cut at most. The dual swords he used to block his opponent's attacks, since he couldn't dodge everything, contained his overwhelming inner chi. Consequently, his shredded clothes and the minor internal injuries that had been accumulating had caught the viper's tail. Baek Gyu questioned Tian Shu about why he was now blocking his attacks instead of relying on the movements he was so proud of to avoid them. The balance of the scale had completely shifted in Baek Gyu's favor. Baek Gyu pressed Tian Shu, asking him how much longer he intended to retreat. He informed Tian Shu that there was nowhere left to run, but Tian Shu merely smiled in response. Baek Gyu then successfully disarmed Tian Shu, removing his sword from his hand. The tiger had seized the viper by the head, leading them to believe the fight was now over. As they watched, Seol noticed something sharp, and Jinshan agreed, remarking that a tiger's claws were indeed sharp. However, Seol clarified that wasn't what she meant. She pointed out the presence of people holding sharp objects in the dark. It turned out to be Tian Shu's comrades, who were hiding in the shadows and hurling sharp objects at Baek Gyu, employing a tactic of sacrificing his own flesh to sever the other person's bone. That's the method that Jinshan used. Tian Shu relinquished his arm to create an opening for the Viper Blood Sect's assassin squad. Poison needles began to rain down from all directions, and Baek Gyu found himself unable to dodge them. However, suddenly, the flying needles came to a halt in midair. To prevent widespread bloodshed among the unorthodox sects in Hu County, it was imperative to resolve the conflict between these two. Despite Baek Gyu's instructions for Jinshan not to intervene, if this was the outcome, there was no reason why he couldn't step in. As Tian Shu contemplated the identity of the old man, he made a move to attack Jinshan. However, Baek Gyu intervened swiftly, delivering a powerful kick to Tian Shu for daring to lay hands on his brother. The force of the blow sent Tian Shu flying and crashing into the wall. Amidst the chaos, others began to launch attacks, but Seol intervened, using telekinesis to restrain them and force them to the ground. Pretending to be the one behind the telekinetic force, Jinshan urged the adversaries to remain subdued. He declared that the victor had already been determined, and there was no need for further bloodshed. Tian Shu believed the battle was concluded. With an arm injury and internal wounds, he thought he had no more fight left. Baek Gyu then confronted Tian Shu, questioning whether Tian Shu truly believed Baek Gyu was unaware of his deceitful tactics. Baek Gyu and Jinshan deliberated over Tian Shu's potential strategy. They acknowledged that if Tian Shu felt cornered, he would likely resort to deceitful tactics. However, this realization didn't diminish Baek Gyu's chances of victory. It simply meant achieving a decisive win would be more challenging while anticipating Tian Shu's tricks. Recognizing the risk of further bloodshed if their sect members fell victim to Tian Shu's schemes, Seol and Jinshan agreed to handle Tian Shu's tricks, allowing Baek Gyu to focus solely on the duel. Tian Shu pondered the sudden appearance of the mysterious old expert, but Baek Gyu asserted that there was no need to search for blame, as Tian Shu's fate now rested in Baek Gyu's hands. With a swift swing of his sword toward Tian Shu's head, the enemies tensed, fearing for their leader. However, relief swept over them when Baek Gyu's blade merely struck the ground near Tian Shu's head. And that concludes the latest chapter of our story. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated for the next chapters. Thank you so much for watching. Tian Shu was shocked that Baek Gyu had intentionally struck the ground. He asked Baek Gyu what this meant and told him to stop playing around and kill him already. Baek Gyu replied that he could cut Tian Shu down many times if he wanted to. However, a while ago, Jinshan suggested that it would be wise to eliminate the source of trouble in advance. But then he wondered, what if he could make it his own? Baek Gyu told Tian Shu that he should thank his generous and wise big brother, Jinshan. However, Tian Shu dismissed Baek Gyu's words as nonsense and questioned if Baek Gyu thought this would make him his dog. Baek Gyu shouted at Tian Shu, asking how someone who was once young and bright had ended up like this. He explained that the unorthodox Path Syndicate wanted the 4 factions of Hu County to unite, not to kill and destroy one another. Baek Gyu then questioned Tian Shu, asking who would benefit the most if they continued their infighting. Wouldn't it be the pretentious, hypocritical orthodox bastards who took Baek Gyu's father's life and put Tian Shu's brother to death? Baek Gyu added that if the Viper Blood Sect, the Dark Dragon Group, and the Heaven-Reaching Alliance joined forces with the dominating sect, even those bastards from the Manhwa sect and the Zhongnan sect wouldn't dare to covet Hu County. He questioned Tian Shu, asking if this wasn't what his older brother wanted as well. Baek Gyu then extended his arm to Tian Shu and asked if he would protect Hu County with him. Tian Shu responded by taking Baek Gyu's hand and said that the life he owed him would be dedicated to Hu County. Now, all 4 factions of Hu County had become one. They joined forces to get rid of the hypocritical bastards from the orthodox sects and protect this free and lively Hu County. Jinshan approached Tian Shu to treat his wound, telling him that, being young, he would recover quickly from such an injury. He added that he felt quite at ease now, knowing that the Blood Viper sect, known for using underhanded tricks to achieve their goals, was now on their side. Tian Shu reassured Jinshan not to worry, promising to keep his word to Baek Gyu. When Jinshan asked if he could swear it, Tian Shu replied, of course. He added that he would do anything and everything to prove it, no matter the cost. Thus, the dominating sect, the Heaven-Reaching Alliance, the Dark Dragon Group, and the Blood Viper sect held a brotherhood ceremony, bringing peace to Hu County. However, time was passing by, and Jinshan still hadn't had the chance to properly start avenging his family. As Seol slept, Jinshan looked at her, marveling at how cute her sleeping face was. He thought about how happy Seol's parents would be if they saw her now. Thinking of his poor children made his heart ache. Suddenly, Jinshan coughed. Although the Sword Empress had completely cured his tumor, there was nothing anyone could do about the limited time heaven had granted him. Since Hu County has been united, Baek Gyu is now an official of the unorthodox Path Syndicate. As a leader of Hu County, he will soon be the commander of Shaanxi, ranking 7th, and his status will be comparable to that of a sect leader of a prestigious orthodox sect. This means he has become a significant figure in Murim. Baek Gyu thanked Jinshan, believing it was all thanks to him, and expressed that he finally has the strength to help Jinshan in earnest. Jinshan thanked Baek Gyu and said that even now, he can't sleep at night when he thinks about his children who died unjustly. His only clue is the dragon tattoo on their necks. These days, Jinshan feels like he doesn't have much time left to live. He told Baek Gyu that there are things one learns with age. Seol is only 3 years old, and with Jinshan's injured left arm, he will probably be unable to avenge his family. Baek Gyu told Jinshan that heaven would recognize his tenacity. He knew that Jinshan had been practicing his inner chi every single day without taking a break. Jinshan confirmed this, saying that as he focused on training with Seol every day, he initially thought it would take 5 years. However, at some point, he realized that he had made great progress. This meant that Jinshan finally had 180 years worth of inner chi. With excitement, Baek Gyu congratulated his big brother. Now, Jinshan thinks that it's finally time to attempt it. The only way to transform into a young, strong body to achieve his family's revenge and take care of Seol until she grows up. He is referring to the body reconstruction technique. But Jinshan is worried that he's too old. He believes that achieving body reconstruction is difficult, especially for someone over 40 years old. Despite these doubts, Baek Gyu continues to cheer Jinshan on, insisting that he will definitely succeed. Jinshan laughs and responds that perhaps that's what he needed to hear. Now, he tells Baek Gyu to finish their drinks. By morning, Jinshan told Seol that her grandpa would be back soon with lots of snacks, leaving her in the care of Baek Gyu's wife. Baek Gyu then guided Jinshan to the place where he would perform his body reconstruction. This location was where Baek Gyu's father used to do his seclusion training, ensuring that Jinshan would not be disturbed. Baek Gyu estimated that with Jinshan's strength, it would likely take at most a day. Jinshan then entered the room, and Baek Gyu told him that he would go and prepare a celebration feast for tonight. As night fell, Baek Gyu had the meal prepared but felt uneasy because his big brother Jinshan was late. However, he hesitated to go in before Jinshan came out, knowing he would only get in Jinshan's way. Body reconstruction involves reorganizing bones and flesh to optimize the body for learning martial arts. It requires clearing the last 2 of the 36 blood vessels used in martial arts, the conception vessel and the governing vessel. However, Baek Gyu heard that during the process of clearing the conception vessel, known as the gate of life and death, there are cases where a person experiences chi deviation. This causes their inner chi to run amok, leading to death when their dantian explodes. Baek Gyu laughed at his needless thoughts, but suddenly he had a realization and rushed to get his horse. He wondered why he hadn't thought of it earlier. Death and divine physicians, specifically Death Physician Maso and Divine Physician Mayang. Maso, the eldest brother, is a master of poison, while Mayang, the younger brother, is renowned for his ability to revive the dead. According to their strange pact, if Mayang saves someone, Maso will kill one of his acquaintances in return due to his eccentric nature. Baek Gyu is aware that they owe a debt to his late father. Mayang is known for never forgetting a favor he has received. As long as he lives, if there is a patient in need of treatment at their sect, Mayang will unfailingly save that person's life. Although it happened when Baek Gyu was young, he remembers it clearly. A few years ago, Baek Gyu heard that Mayang had settled near the Mount Hua sect, not far from where Baek Gyu currently resides. Baek Gyu believes that if it's Mayang, he will surely be able to assist his big brother with his body reconstruction. In the morning, Seol woke up and asked why her grandpa hadn't come back yet. Baek Gyu's wife reassured her that grandfather was running a bit late but would surely return soon. She then asked Seol if she wanted to go out and play with the uncles, but Seol wasn't interested. Trying again, she suggested they go out for some meat, and Seol eagerly called for her grandpa to come back quickly. On the other side, Jinshan wondered how much time had passed since he entered this place, unable to feel the passage of time. Having completed his preparations, he began to channel 180 years' worth of inner chi into one place, directing it towards the conception vessel like a volcano erupting. The conception vessel is cleared. As the Weian point, which had been hardened due to the accumulation of murky chi over many years, is unclogged, Jinshan's whole body feels as light as a feather. Now, the only thing left is the governing vessel. After returning all of his inner chi back to the dantian, he will direct it towards the governing vessel all at once. Suddenly, Jinshan's heart started pounding wildly. He felt like his whole body was burning. He knew that if this continued, he might fall into a state of chi deviation. Jinshan collapsed to the ground, thinking about Seol waiting for him. Moments later, Baek Gyu arrived and saw Jinshan collapsed with blood on the ground. He was deeply worried, fearing he might have arrived too late. Mayang cautioned Baek Gyu not to recklessly touch the patient, as it wouldn't be surprising if Jinshan died immediately. Baek Gyu anxiously asked Mayang if there was a chance to save Jinshan. Mayang replied that he had been very surprised and happy when Baek Gyu had visited him earlier. He explained that he could finally repay the favor he owed to Baek Gyu's late father. Mayang had promised to save the one patient Baek Gyu wanted, no matter what. They brought Jinshan back to the house, and fortunately, his complexion had returned to normal, and his breathing was stable. Baek Gyu was amazed that Mayang could save someone who had fallen into a state of chi deviation like that. Mayang, too, was surprised that Jinshan had accumulated so much inner chi even at his age. It was Jinshan's strong will that made his recovery straightforward. Moments later, Jinshan regained consciousness and asked Baek Gyu what had happened. Mayang was impressed by Jinshan's remarkable recovery speed. As night fell, Jinshan was able to sit up, drink, and express his gratitude to Mayang. Mayang observed that Jinshan had been ingesting poison-like nerve suppression pills for a long time. He explained that while the poison was now gone, Jinshan's aging body had sustained significant damage. Unfortunately, with a body in such a state, it seemed too late to successfully undergo the gate of life and death transformation. Baek Gyu then asked the divine physician if he could find a way to make body reconstruction possible. Mayang answered that of course there's a way, but he couldn't help anymore. He explained that he didn't know why Jinshan was there, but upon checking his identity, Mayang discovered that Jinshan was someone who had mastered the martial arts of the orthodox sects. Mayang had promised Baek Gyu's father to treat him, but he no longer wanted to help people associated with the orthodox sects. Baek Gyu wanted more of Mayang's help, but Jinshan insisted that he was already grateful for Mayang saving his life. As Mayang started to leave, he asked Jinshan if they had met before when they were younger. Jinshan replied that during his time in Zhonghu, he was just a humble man. How could he have met someone like Mayang, a divine physician? Somehow, Jinshan seemed very familiar to Mayang. Suddenly, Mayang remembered the bounty from the Murim Alliance and took out the wanted poster. He then asked Jinshan if he was the one who gathered the scum of the Wudang sect and Mount Hua sect at the Lianghua Inn and wiped them out using a brilliant plan. Baek Gyu confirmed it and told Mayang that he was right. That righteous man was his big brother. Mayang then bent his knee and knelt down in front of Jinshan, asking forgiveness from the great warrior for his earlier rudeness. He expressed that Jinshan, the great warrior, was his benefactor who had avenged him. A few years ago, a Taoist from the Mount Hua sect mobilized his disciples and brutally murdered Mayang's brother. The methods used by these so-called orthodox sect bastards were unimaginably cruel and despicable. In revenge, Mayang settled near Mount Hua and began treating warriors from the unorthodox sects who were injured by the Mount Hua sect. However, it was said that the enemy who killed his brother met his end when his head was shattered by an elder from the Wudang sect at Lianghua Inn. Mayang could address Jinshan as his benefactor who avenged him, and he had even carried Jinshan's wanted poster with him all this time, hoping to one day repay the favor. Mayang was grateful that heaven had finally allowed him to meet the great warrior. Moments later, Seol arrived, running happily towards her grandpa. Upon hearing that Jinshan had returned, she insisted on coming to see him. Seol asked her grandpa if he was hurt, and Jinshan showed her how healthy he was. Baek Gyu's wife invited Seol to go play outside because the adults were talking, but Seol insisted on staying with her grandpa. Baek Gyu's wife then mentioned the specially prepared meat for Seol, implying it would be a shame if it got cold. Seol reluctantly agreed to leave, understanding that eating well was also a form of filial piety. Mayang noticed and was surprised that Seol possessed the immortal echoing physique. Jinshan, impressed by Mayang's insight, acknowledged him as the divine physician, recognizing Seol's condition immediately. Mayang then took something out from his bag and remarked that it seemed this item had finally met its rightful owner. It was an elixir he had meticulously crafted over 10 years using rare herbs. Mayang stated that he always repays the favors he receives. He explained to Jinshan that if he took this elixir during the body reconstruction process, his life would not be in danger. Jinshan then asked if this meant body reconstruction was now possible. Mayang replied that it was ultimately up to heaven to decide. In bad cases, Jinshan wouldn't risk dying from qi deviation even if body reconstruction fails. However, while he could retain consciousness and speak normally, his body might be so damaged that he couldn't walk or eat independently, effectively becoming like a living corpse. Mayang estimated the likelihood of this outcome at 50%. In the good case, it's no coincidence that Seol, the granddaughter of the Liu family, was born suddenly with the immortal echoing physique. Her rare constitution was inherited through blood and manifested by the will of heaven. During Jinshan's body reconstruction, his body would undergo advanced transformations to protect itself from rapid changes. In essence, body reconstruction and rejuvenation would occur simultaneously. An old man gets a chance to regain his youth and live a new life while retaining his martial arts skills. In body reconstruction, it's typical for a person to revert to a somewhat younger body that is optimal for martial arts practice. Given his age, Jinshan hoped for a significant success if he could return to a body similar to that of Baek Gyu's. Jinshan asked Mayang how young he could potentially become. Mayang replied that he didn't know for certain. Jinshan could return to his 20s, or in some cases, even revert to being a newborn baby. Baek Gyu was shocked to hear this, and Jinshan coughed nervously. After the conversation, Mayang left. Jinshan decided not to proceed with the body reconstruction for now, given the 50% chance of becoming disabled. Even if he managed to avoid that outcome, he couldn't care for Seol properly if he regressed to being a newborn baby. Baek Gyu reassured Jinshan that he didn't need to worry because he would always be there for him. However, Jinshan expressed concerns about burdening Baek Gyu, especially with the challenges of caring for both an immobile elderly person and a 3-year-old child. Moreover, Jinshan considered the implications for their family's vengeance if he were to undergo body reconstruction and face potential complications. He felt he had much more to accomplish before he could risk such uncertainties. Understanding Jinshan's concerns, Baek Gyu assured him that he would swiftly gather information about those who harmed the Liu family. Jinshan emphasized that his priority now should be taking excellent care of Seol. The next day, Jinshan went to the iron casting smithy to request a new spear handle. Upon examining the spear, the head of the smithy recognized it. He never imagined he would one day handle the work of the master craftsman Jin Gyu, known for imbuing his weapons with hidden power. Curious, he asked Jinshan how the spear had been split in half. Jinshan simply replied that it just turned out that way. Jinshan then handed over the remaining half of the handle and requested that it be crafted into a staff suitable for a young child to hold. He asked for a bladeless staff with a blunt end. The head of the smithy sensed the long accumulated qi in the handle. He understood that if they created a matching pair with this, they would be able to sense each other's qi from a distance, as they were originally one piece. Jinshan returned home and brought Seol a gift, the same spear handle as his own. Seol was delighted to receive a spear like her grandpa's. Jinshan's priority now was to teach Seol all the techniques of the annihilating wind spear. He recalled Mayang's advice that, despite Jinshan currently relying on his strong inner qi, his physical condition indicated rapid aging within 5 years. Before that time, Mayang recommended Jinshan consider undergoing body reconstruction for the elixir to have its intended effect. Since they couldn't freely use their strength where they were, Jinshan suggested to Seol that they should go to Mount Shaohua to practice the body lightening art together. There was a very large and high cliff there. He explained to Seol that from now on, they would climb to the top and return every day. Jinshan believed that within the next 5 years, Seol should be able to achieve 60 out of 100% mastery of the annihilating wind spear techniques. Once he identified their family's enemy, Jinshan planned to attempt body reconstruction. He considered 5 years to be ample time for these preparations. After 5 years, Seol had achieved 80% mastery of the annihilating wind spear techniques. With just 20% remaining, she would complete the family secret that had been passed down, the annihilating wind spear. Seol was thrilled and couldn't wait to share the news with her grandpa. She ran home at an incredible speed, leaving Baek Gyu's wife amazed at how fast Seol had become. Seol rushed into Jinshan's room and excitedly announced her return to her grandpa. Seol entered her grandpa's room, and Jinshan greeted her with a cough. Concerned, Seol asked if he was all right and showed him some herbs she had found. Jinshan warned her that the plant was poisonous and could cause instant death if eaten. Ignoring his warning, Seol was tempted to taste it, believing it might be a panacea. Seol possessed the ability of the unrestrained realm, making her impervious to all poisons. Seol reassured her grandpa that next time she would dig up real herbs because she didn't want him to die. Overcome with emotion, she cried in Jinshan's lap. He comforted her, assuring Seol that he understood and promised her that he wouldn't die. Jinshan found himself facing a death sentence once more, reminiscent of the day 8 years ago. Thankfully, Seol was no longer a baby. Jinshan believed that Baek Gyu and his wife would be able to raise Seol well, treating her like their own daughter. Despite enduring everything while striving to avenge his family, Jinshan questioned whether he had already lived out his natural lifespan. For 5 years, they scoured everywhere for clues about their enemies using the Unorthodox Path Syndicate's information network, but to no avail. Jinshan wondered how he could sustain hope for revenge when there was no promising lead. Realizing that he could pass away in his sleep at any moment, he decided that he would have to seek one last favor. Jinshan went to see his brother Baek Gyu, who was also planning to visit him. At Baek Gyu's table, Jinshan noticed maps of Shaanxi and numerous letters. It was clear that the war against the Orthodox sects had reignited. Fierce battles were unfolding across various fronts. However, it is learned that the territory of an unorthodox sect called Heaven Advancing Sect, a formidable sect with many experts, had recently been annihilated in a battle against the Jiangnan sect. The Jiangnan sect dispatched their elders and other experts, among whom were 3 individuals with dragon tattoos on their necks, each proficient in different martial arts. The dragon tattoos matched the description Jinshan had mentioned precisely. If the leader and experts of the Heaven Advancing sect were defeated instantly by just 3 individuals with dragon tattoos, it's speculated that at least one of them might be an unrestrained master like Seol. Rumors suggested that one of these individuals had a larger dragon tattoo wrapped around his neck, potentially indicating the unrestrained master among them. Baek Gyu's wife suddenly called him, reporting that they were in trouble. She explained that Seol had run out alone, declaring her intention to catch those with dragon tattoos on their necks. Despite her efforts to stop Seol, she was too fast to be caught. They suspected that Seol had overheard the report. Having heard stories about her family's enemies for years, it was natural for Seol to want to find the people who killed her parents. Despite her skills in the unrestrained realm, she was still a child who had trained for several years without actual combat experience. Now, she might have to face numerous masters from the Jiangnan sect and 3 unidentified individuals, one of whom was rumored to be an unrestrained master. As a result, Jinshan panicked and wanted to go find Seol, but his staff suddenly broke. Baek Gyu then offered to go and find Seol himself, but Jinshan disagreed. He explained that if Baek Gyu entered the Orthodox sect's territory at a time like this, not only the dominating sect but the entire Hu County might become victims of an unnecessary war. Jinshan said that since Seol is his granddaughter, if someone has to risk his life, it will be him. He then asked his brother Baek Gyu for one last favor, to lend him Baek Gyu's father's secluded training cave one more time. On the other side, Seol was confronting some men in search of individuals with dragon tattoos. When one of them attacked her from behind, questioning the validity of her claims, Seol effortlessly dodged his assault and checked his neck for a dragon tattoo. Upon confirming that he did not possess one, Seol swiftly kicked him in the face. Seol approached the beaten man and asked if he had ever seen people with dragon tattoos. The man had no idea what Seol was talking about. He also wondered how such a strong kid could exist. He didn't think Seol was an old expert who had undergone rejuvenation. From her actions to her way of speaking, she was undoubtedly a child. Seol warned the man that if he didn't tell her the location of the men with dragon tattoos who killed her parents, she would hit him again. The man asked Seol if she had personally seen her parents die. Assuming Seol hadn't witnessed it herself, he revealed that her parents weren't actually dead. They had been taken away by men with dragon tattoos. He then promised to take Seol to where her parents were. Because of this, Seol came to believe that her mom and dad were still alive. The man didn't understand why Seol was suddenly searching for her parents, but he believed it would be easy to deceive a child like her. He had already sent the signal, and their garrison, armed with iron arrowheads, would soon arrive. His plan was simple: buy time and trap Seol when the moment was right. The man asked Seol if she could remember her mom's face. He explained that it was crucial for Seol to remember so they could quickly find her. Remembering her past, Seol asked her grandpa what kind of people her parents were. She thought she remembered what her mom smelled like. While Seol was describing her mom and dad's faces to the guy, he thought he had her. Suddenly, iron arrowheads ignited in a ring of fire, and someone appeared wielding a spear. The guy wondered what was happening, but moments later, he received a fatal blow to his chest. The unidentified character questioned Seol about why she was so distracted. He lectured her that no matter how strong she was, in Jonghu, a moment of distraction could cost her her life. He then reminded Seol that he had always told her to keep that in mind. And that concludes the latest chapter of our story. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated for the next chapters. Thank you so much for watching. Inside the training ground, Jinshan remembered Mayang's advice. If he tried to reconstruct his body now, even with the elixir, he would not escape death, unless heaven sent a miracle. After taking the elixir, Jinshan prayed to his ancestors to watch over him so he could avenge his family and raise Seol well, who would restore the Liu family to its former glory. At that time, his conception vessel was pierced. Now, as long as he could unclog his governing vessel, Baek Gyu heard Jinshan's voice shouting in pain and prayed that Jinshan wouldn't die. Curious about what was happening to his big brother, Baek Gyu peeked inside the cave and caught a brief glimpse of Jinshan's body parts bending uncomfortably. Moments later, Jinshan's screams subsided. From outside the cave, Baek Gyu asked if Jinshan was all right. With a shaking hand, Baek Gyu tried to open the door, but suddenly, a strong impact pushed it open, and someone sped out with incredible speed. Jinshan succeeded. His body reconstruction was now complete. The staff he held could detect others' chi from a distance. His body felt so light that he was much faster than in his prime. However, he was curious about how much younger he had become. He then tried to use the staff as a mirror and was shocked by what he saw. Back in the present, Jinshan asked Seol why she was just staring and not answering. Instead of replying, Seol hit him and demanded to know his identity, as well as why he had her grandfather's clothes and spear. Before Jinshan could answer, he heard the enemies approaching and thought it wasn't the right time to reveal his identity to the Jongnan sect's bastards. Instead, he told Seol to follow him if she was looking for the men with dragon tattoos. Seol asked how he knew she was searching for them. Jinshan replied that he had his own methods and told her to follow him first. As Jinshan expected, Seol was gullible, being just a child. While following him, Seol asked where the invaders were. Jinshan responded, they were definitely here. Moments later, they arrived back at their base. Jinshan was relieved that they had made it back safely. Seol then grabbed Jinshan's ear, exclaiming that this was their house. She asked how he knew where they lived, to which Jinshan replied that he was her grandpa. Seol, not believing him, told him to stop joking while Jinshan continued to insist that he was indeed her grandpa. Moments later, Baek Gyu arrived and welcomed his big brother, recognizing him as Jinshan had expected. While looking at the younger Jinshan, Baek Gyu had to resist the urge to pat his head due to his cuteness. Observing this, Seol noticed the resemblance and began to realize that the young Jinshan did indeed look like her grandpa. When Seol asked the young Jinshan if he was truly her grandpa, he reminded her that his appearance might change after undergoing body reconstruction. Seol then realized that the chi emanating from the young Jinshan was the same as her grandpa's. With teary eyes, she suddenly jumped into his arms and hugged him. She asked her grandpa to confirm if he would no longer die. Jinshan embraced his granddaughter and assured her, saying, "Of course, how could I leave you by yourself?" After that moment, Baek Gyu led Jinshan inside and invited him for a drink. However, Baek Gyu felt that alcohol might not be suitable, so he offered Jinshan a cup of tea instead. Jinshan explained that while he had pretended to be calm in front of Seol, he wasn't in the mood for laughter at the moment. Now that he was at the same eye level as his granddaughter, Jinshan was uncertain about how to raise her from this point forward. Baek Gyu then pointed out that Jinshan should be glad he hadn't become any younger. He encouraged Jinshan to think positively, noting that becoming younger likely meant his lifespan had also been extended. At any rate, Jinshan had brought Seol back from Mount Jongnan for now. He was worried about a child who didn't even know what the Jongnan sect was running all the way there. When Baek Gyu looked into it, he discovered that not only did they assist the Jongnan sect in destroying the Heaven Advancing sect, but they also belonged to a secret organization within the Murim Alliance that handled covert operations. In the end, Jinshan questioned whether that meant the ones who exterminated his Liu family were indeed members of the orthodox sects. He couldn't believe that such a vicious act could be committed in the name of sects that were supposed to uphold righteousness. To Baek Gyu, whether it was the orthodox sects or the unorthodox sects, they were all bastards who killed for a living. Righteousness was nothing more than a cumbersome decoration. Jinshan decided he needed to gather information from the Jongnan sect's bastards himself. When Baek Gyu asked how many people he should send with Jinshan, Jinshan replied that he would handle it on his own. Baek Gyu thought it was too dangerous, but Jinshan demonstrated something to him. Baek Gyu was amazed to see that Jinshan didn't spill a single drop. Compared to before, Jinshan could now handle qi with much more precision. Although his body had become a bit smaller, it had been transformed into the most suitable form for martial arts. The size of his inner qi and his martial arts capabilities had reached a completely different level compared to when he was in his prime. With these improvements, there was no longer any reason for him to delay avenging his family. Meanwhile, at Mount Jongnan in the Jongnan sect's area, two children discussed the uproar from the previous night when an intruder had broken in. Some claimed it was a kid about the same age as their third-generation disciples. One of them couldn't believe it and thought their martial uncles must have seen it wrong. He suggested it was more likely a dwarf or a monstrous old man from the unorthodox sects. The other child speculated that the darkness might have made it difficult to see the intruder clearly. Regardless, they were disappointed that their martial uncles had been defeated so easily. At this rate, they thought they might be able to compete for the sect leader's position in 20 years. Moments later, Jinshan approached the children from behind and told them to focus on training their mental and physical discipline instead of wasting time recklessly swinging their swords. When one of the kids tried to hit Jinshan, Jinshan put him to sleep with a swift move. The other child attempted to attack as well, but he was also put to sleep before he could make a move. Afterward, Jinshan took their clothes and wore them. Realizing that he likely wouldn't learn much from these minor disciples, he decided to seek out some of the first-generation disciples instead. Inside the temple, a man trying to concentrate was interrupted by Jinshan, who brought him some tea. The man asked why Jinshan had brought tea all of a sudden and if he was a new disciple. Jinshan replied, yes. The man then asked several more questions, prompting Jinshan to wonder why he was talking so much. Jinshan told him that if an adult gave him something, he should simply say, thank you, and drink it. Annoyed by this, the man attempted to hit Jinshan, but Jinshan swiftly subdued him in an instant. Even though the Jongnan sect is considered a sacred ground for Taoism, it is actually filled with people who aspire to become warriors, using their fists or swords before anything else. The man tried to attack Jinshan again from behind, but Jinshan caught him effortlessly. Jinshan warned him to provide useful information if he wanted to keep his life intact. The man, realizing the seriousness of the situation, agreed to tell Jinshan everything. Jinshan asked the man if he had been present when the Jongnan sect attacked the Heaven Advancing sect, and the man confirmed he was there. Jinshan then inquired about the three strange men who had helped the Jongnan sect at that time, specifically those with dragon tattoos on their necks. The man claimed he didn't know anything about them. In response, Jinshan squeezed his neck, prompting the man to insist he was telling the truth, stating that it was the first time he had seen those men that day. Jinshan could tell that the man wasn't lying. He then told the man that since his information was worthless, there was no reason to spare him. Suddenly, the man shouted the name, Martial Uncle Zhan Ho, claiming that Zhan Ho knew who the three men were because he was the one who brought them here. Jinshan immediately asked for the location where this martial uncle Zhan Ho was staying. Jinshan reasoned that if a first-generation disciple referred to someone as martial uncle, that person would be an elder of the Jongnan sect, and their location would be at the sect's center. This area was on a completely different level from the sect's entrance and was impossible to sneak into. Given that many young children joined the Jongnan sect, Jinshan decided to blend in as naturally as possible by dressing like them. While the other children followed their guide, Jinshan wandered around alone. Although he thought it was perfectly natural, he was suddenly called and questioned about why he was wandering around when the youngest disciples were likely working in the dining hall. Jinshan explained that he was running some errands and had gotten lost for a moment. The man who questioned Jinshan became angry at the tone of his response. He tried to kick Jinshan's foot, but only ended up hurting himself. When his junior brothers came over to ask what had happened, he claimed that Jinshan must have steel around his ankles. Jinshan was trying to move quietly, but his decade-long habits and tone of speech slipped out without him realizing. Moments later, another man arrived and lifted Jinshan, intending to teach him a lesson. Just as the man was about to strike, Jinshan quickly rotated his body and twisted the man's arm, freeing himself. Jinshan then began to run to escape. Knowing he couldn't go to the Harmonious Hall after causing such a commotion, Jinshan decided to return later that day, now that he knew where Zan Ho was. While observing from the air, Jinshan felt a powerful qi approaching. Elder Zan Ho emerged, causing everyone to become alarmed. Zan Ho demanded to know who had dared to cause a commotion in the serene place. The disciples quickly greeted their elder. Jinshan looked at Zan Ho, the suspicious figure who had brought in people with dragon tattoos. This was a stroke of luck for Jinshan. The very person he had been searching for had just walked right up to him. Zan Ho reminded his men that, as martial uncles, they were supposed to take good care of the new young disciples and questioned how they could be bullying a child. The big guy explained to Elder Zan Ho that the kid had attacked him first. Zan Ho responded with surprise, asking, "This small child did?" They explained that, although it might be hard to believe, the child was the one who had put them in their current state. Zan Ho then recalled that there had been an intruder at the Jiangnan entrance at dawn, described as looking like dwarf monsters. Suddenly, Zan Ho attacked Jinshan, making Jinshan worry he might not be able to block it. However, it turned out to be a feint designed to test Jinshan. Zan Ho realized that the intruder hadn't merely looked like a dwarf monster. This action confirmed that it was indeed Jinshan, the very person who had attacked their Jiangnan sect. Jinshan began to run again, prompting Zan Ho to order his men to catch him. However, Jinshan was too fast, and they wondered what kind of body lightning art he was using. Jinshan didn't want to fight in the middle of the Jiangnan sect, so he led them to follow him. Upon reaching the forest, Zan Ho caught up with Jinshan. He questioned Jinshan, wondering if he really thought he could escape from Mount Jiangnan. Jinshan acknowledged that the Jiangnan sect's body lightning art was indeed impressive. However, he then asked Zan Ho if it had ever occurred to him that Jinshan might have intentionally allowed him to catch up. Insulted by Jinshan's provocation, Zan Ho launched a powerful attack that shook the forest. He was stunned to find that a mere child could push back a Jiangnan sect elder. When Zan Ho questioned Jinshan about his identity, Jinshan responded that it was Zan Ho who would be answering questions. Zan Ho noticed that Jinshan's manner of speaking resembled that of his peers, leading him to consider that it might be a case of rejuvenation. Such a phenomenon was so rare that even Zan Ho had only heard about it in rumors. Zan Ho also observed that Jinshan seemed to be using a martial arts technique from a small family that he had never seen before. However, Jinshan's soft and flexible handling of qi resembled the great principles of Jiangnan's martial arts, canceling waves with waves. Zan Ho thought that if he could control the flow of qi, he might be able to neutralize Jinshan's attacks. Jinshan tried to attack again using the Liu family's Heaven-Earth Palm, second movement, Fierce Dragon Grappling Strike. The attack caused a massive explosion, shaking the surroundings. Zan Ho wondered how Jinshan could deliver such a powerful blow with such flexible qi. He then considered the possibility that Jinshan might be familiar with Jiangnan's martial arts and had deliberately lured him into this confrontation. This led Zan Ho to conclude that Jinshan was undoubtedly someone with extensive experience in Jianghu. Jinshan knew that the longer he stayed, the more of the Jiangnan sect's members would arrive. He had deliberately avoided letting Zan Ho catch up to him. To suppress Zan Ho quickly and extract information, Jinshan had already hidden the Fire Dragon Divine Spear at the site. However, when Jinshan tried to retrieve his spear, someone suddenly kicked it away. It was the Grand Elder of the Jiangnan sect. This was an unexpected complication. Jinshan now faced the prospect of contending with two elders simultaneously. At Baek Gyu's place, he was anxious about his big brother being overdue. Jinshan had ventured to Mount Jiangnan alone to gather information, and Baek Gyu was concerned about his prolonged absence. While his wife remained calm, confident that Jinshan would manage to escape, Baek Gyu was deeply worried. He knew the Jiangnan sect well. Their reputation as one of the 9 great sects meant they were filled with martial masters. Additionally, Baek Gyu remembered the brutal way the so-called Orthodox sect had attacked the Heaven Advancing sect. even employing unidentified assailants. Given these factors, Baek Gyu feared that Jinshan might be in serious trouble facing them alone. He could only hope that Seol would take a long nap to avoid adding to his concerns. Moments later, Seol woke up and entered the room while Baek Gyu was still discussing Jinshan's situation. They didn't notice that Seol had already woken up. Having overheard that her grandpa had gone to fight, Baek Gyu's wife attempted to explain that it wasn't as it sounded, but Seol interrupted, stating that she had heard everything from her uncle Baek Gyu. With a fierce expression, Seol demanded to know who Jongnan was and where she could find that bastard. Back at the confrontation, Zan Ho warned the Grand Elder that Jinshan was a master who had undergone rejuvenation. This revelation prompted the Grand Elder to want to understand why Jinshan had invaded Mount Jongnan. Suddenly, Jinshan took the Grand Elder by surprise by stepping on his knee to propel himself into the air. He then leapt onto a tree and, from there, managed to reach his spear, which was positioned above. Jinshan then reassured the Grand Elder not to worry, saying he wasn't running away. He told the Grand Elder that even if he didn't want to know, he would soon discover the reason for Jinshan's intrusion. The two elders then attacked Jinshan together. Zan Ho was astonished by how Jinshan managed to give both him and the Grand Elder such a difficult time. The Grand Elder recognized that Jinshan's attacks were both flexible and powerful, which surprised him given the presence of such a master in Zhonghu. However, the Grand Elder believed that the martial arts of even the most prestigious families could not match those of Jongnan. He employed the skill, Heavenly Cloud Indestructible Hand, to attack Jinshan, which destroyed the surrounding trees and relentlessly pursued the fleeing Jinshan. Even though Jinshan had undergone body reconstruction, he had not yet broken through the unrestrained realm's barrier. Although the fight seemed evenly matched since both elders were not using any killing moves and aimed to capture him alive, Jinshan knew that facing two opponents meant he would gradually be at a disadvantage. However, the absence of swords on their part was a critical factor. Jinshan had the Fire Dragon Divine Spear, giving him a significant edge. Jinshan employed the Liu family Annihilating Wind Spear, second movement, the Wailing Eradicating Strike, and charged toward the enemy. His goal was to capture Zan Ho to extract information about the men with the dragon tattoos. He viewed this as the first crucial step in avenging his family. Suddenly, a flying sword intercepted Jinshan's attack. Two more swords were thrown. One to Zan Ho and one to the Grand Elder, delivered by their junior brother Zan Xing. With Zan Xing's arrival, there were now three elders opposing Jinshan. The Grand Elder, initially planning to interrogate Jinshan slowly after defeating him, decided instead to eliminate him. Jinshan smiled, noting that the Grand Elder seemed overly confident simply because their numbers had increased by one. Despite facing three opponents simultaneously, Jinshan was determined to capture Zan Ho no matter what. Moments later, Jinshan realized that the chi from his spear was being traced by its other half. He had initially planned to handle the situation quietly on his own, but now it had escalated. The Grand Elder noticed Jinshan's demeanor and thought he might be giving up. Jinshan then told them that there was no helping it, and they should finish this quickly and go back. They assumed Jinshan was trying to waste time and make his escape. Jinshan speculated that they couldn't even sense Seol's presence at their level. He then asked who the strongest in Jongnan was and advised them to call the sect leader. Hearing Jinshan's challenge, his enemies felt insulted and were ready to make him pay for his disrespect towards the esteemed Jongnan sect. However, before they could move closer, they noticed something descending from above and quickly stepped back. To their astonishment, another staff similar to Jinshan's spear appeared, and a figure who looked like a child also emerged. Zan Ho wondered if the new arrival was another rejuvenated master, but the Grand Elder reassured him not to be afraid. With their junior brother's arrival and the addition of their swords, they still had the numerical advantage of 3 against 2. However, the Grand Elder found the situation odd and questioned whether it was common to encounter so many old monsters. Additionally, he couldn't sense any chi from the new arrival and speculated that she might be a super expert who had achieved the natural state of returning. Jinshan asked Seol if her uncle Baek Gyu had informed her about the situation. Seol replied that she had merely overheard the conversation. She then asked who among the grandfathers present was Jongnan, which only served to further insult the assembled elders. Seol clarified that she had heard her grandfather went to fight with Jongnan. Pointing to Zan Ho, Jinshan told Seol that he was the Jongnan they needed to capture, while the other two were his bad friends. Seol noticed the wound on Jinshan's face and asked if Jongmin had inflicted it. Zhan Xing, thinking Seol was insulting Jongmin, became enraged and charged at them. Despite the Grand Elder's attempt to intervene, Zhan Xing executed a special attack aimed at Seol. To his surprise, Seol was even faster than his swift sword. Observing Seol's actions, Jinshan was amazed by the unrestrained Realm Master's fierce dragon grappling strike. With an angry tone, Seol demanded, "Why did you hit my grandpa?" And that concludes that latest chapter of our story. This recipe is so good, even an orc would approve. Give it a try and let us know what you think in the comments below.